to edit it because there's some stories I can't fucking. And one of them was me standing up and fucking off out of this police station. And then one of them goes, "Where are you going?" I'll go to have some fucking curry. And I just walk off. He was the one that got me into it. He ran gyms or dojos, I guess you'd call them back then, in the early 80s.
Different level, man. Like, you know, so Japan, what drew you to Japan? I mean, obviously the martial arts and everything, but it's a different culture out there. How do you survive out there and thrive and live? And, you know, what?
"Oh, have you done such and such style?" And I go, "Yeah. Yeah." And they go, "What about this style?" I went, "Yeah." And they go, "What styles haven't you done?" I said, "Well, I've tried everything that I could, but that doesn't mean that I'm a professional expert in this, that, and that. I'm not saying that at all, but I have spent the last 15 years constantly traveling Southeast Asia and picking up what I can. And just the way to get into those doors with open arms, so to speak, is just have that respect and be humble and not be like, "Oh, I fucking know everything. Check this out." Often it's the exact opposite. They're trying to break down what you think you know and prove that you're a piece of shit and don't know anything. And then they'll really open up to you. And, I got myself in trouble with the Australian Border Force one time by accident. Coming back, I'd just been working in Brazil. We're at the counter-terrorist training facility just outside Sao Paulo. And I had one of the jackets, and that's kind of how I got started. I was obviously obsessed with martial arts. I was doing as many as I could when I was younger, and edge weapon to impact weapon to improvised weapon to firearms. And I had the opportunity to work with a few companies out in the States and do a lot of certifications and training to improve my own skill set. It just so happened that while they were running their tactical courses, they'd have me do the empty hand side of things, or look at weapon retention in terms of risk management, so applied officer safety. So how we can avoid and prevent getting into really horrible situations, for lack of a better term.
All right, and we're live. Welcome back to another Gutter Fighting Secrets Tactical Podcast. Today's going to be Tactical Podcast number 34. We're here with the man and the legend, Mr. Luke Holloway of Raw Combat International. So Luke really doesn't need much of an introduction. Usually I'm spending about freaking 15 minutes reading a resume about this large today, but Luke's resume kind of speaks for himself. So I am just going to say welcome, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, man.
So, Luke, you've been around for a long time, man. I remember watching you on YouTube. I don't know, it seems like ages ago now. And since then, you've been up to some really interesting things. You started off doing, hand-to-hand combat, CQC instructionals, and you've really moved and grown in the tactical community freaking leaps and bounds, man. I remember watching, a couple years ago where you were doing all this cool tactical training and running and gunning and stuff. And I know that now you're doing, various things out there that I honestly won't even get too much in depth with, but you're doing the professional gigs. All right.
Yeah, cool. Whatever. Whatever we talk about, I'll just say I have to be vague, as I just mentioned before we recorded. But yeah, man, that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah,
nothing
cool,
to hide.
So these
nothing
days,
to prove.
Luke's doing a lot of EP work. I didn't want to blow up his spot or anything, but he's really been kind of hitting it big. I know, Luke, now you're back in Australia. You were living in, I think, Japan for a while.
I still sort of, until all the Rona, as we call it here, the COVID fuckery. Sorry, can I swear on this?
You're good, man.
Swear. So no.
Yeah, you're good.
Fucking no, it's sick. So before all this Rona fuckery, I was there a lot more than here, and I just did a second TV series. So we were on the road for 4 months, and then as my headquarters are still over there and 20 odd locations, I'm constantly bouncing back and forth. So, but I like it here, as I was just sort of explaining to you before we started. I prefer it here. It's very chilled and a lot more freedom. And I didn't really want to bring this up, but there's protests going on right now in Japan about police discrimination, all this sort of thing. And I'd been a part of that on the receiving end. Been detained wrongfully a couple of times and spoken about that and everything. But for the majority of the time, I have a very good relationship with people of the NPA, the National Police Agency, I think it is. And a lot of our guys are actually currently serving, servicemen. The Zoom session I was just telling you about in Japanese, we're doing that ground bag work. One of our guys up in Sapporo's a pretty high up cop up there. And then we got other fellows all over the place who are trainers under us who are actively helping with what we call the soft skills, so stand-up grappling skills, so that they can avoid and prevent putting themselves in a position where they cause grievous bodily harm and or lose their own freedom and jobs by going too far, for lack of a better term. I don't know who's listening to this, but basically to avoid a situation which is what's just happened in your country, which is sad. And I didn't want to go on about that. I'm sorry. I know that
You're
everyone's
good, man.
on
You
about
can
it
talk
now.
about it all you want, to be honest with you, dude.
I stayed away from it, to be honest with you, man. It does my head in. Let me give you a different perspective on it, maybe. It does my head in, all the celebrities and the people virtue signaling, for lack of a better term, and attention seeking. Like one of my mates, he's a black fellow in the States. I won't say his name, but he sent me something the other night. He's from the South. I've spent a bit of time in the South, actually. I really like it. Charles, I'll just call him Charles for now. He sent me this thing on Nick Cannon so-and-so about, was it Jimmy Fallon or whatever? So, what, bro, why do I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck about anything? Like, that's the most attention-seeking, virtue-signaling thing out there. And it wasn't his decision. He wouldn't have said, "Oh, I'm going to go out there and do this." Do you have any idea how TV works, man? Like, it's you're a puppet. When you're in front of the camera, you're a fucking puppet. Unless you're director, producer, and you're the one that's signing checks and making decisions. It's not how it works. I think that there's a lot bigger issues there with that, and there's protests going on here in Australia now, and I think it's a great thing to stand up to the man and to say, we're not going to sit there and fucking cop it. You know what I mean? When things aren't right, when you say we the people have a voice and we will be listened to and we will be heard, otherwise we will go out there and stand against you. Now, this whole stand against or stand for or stand whatever, the slacktivism side of it does my head in, where people go, I stand with so and so, or pray for here or pray for, and they don't do fuck all. They haven't taken any action to better the situation or make an effort towards that actual cause, other than, hey, look how good a person I am, you know. And that really does my head in. So that's why I really take a step back. My missus sent me, I was out here working last night, and she sent me this thing. Oh, look what iTunes has done, something about Black Lives Matter. I said, that's fucking great, but how are they changing? You know, she's going, oh, have you posted anything? I said, no, don't even ask me about that. Like, how am I going to change what's going on in your country, which I think is fucked in a lot of ways. But as you'd know, crime is opportunistic. And this is where we see people turn and go, well, this is my opportunity to be a cunt, because no one's going to say anything, because they're going to say, oh, well, I'm racist if I step. People are, it doesn't matter. You see people of all different colors, shapes, sizes, beliefs, preferences, whatever the fuck, just acting up like absolute cunts because they can. Because people are going to sit there and go, oh, I won't speak up about it because I'll be seen as racist. People are coming to your house or your place of business and smashing the fuck out of it and just creating absolute havoc, which isn't, you know, really in the name of their cause, is it? They're those opportunists, right? The people who are peacefully protesting and trying to create positive change, good on them. I support that. That's a great idea and a great thing that they're doing. I believe that. But then they're misrepresented by these other people, and that really sucks. That really does suck. But I by no means want to be out there saying, "Oh yeah, Black Lives Matter," and this and that. Of course they fucking do. All lives matter. I've got a kid. I've got, you know, mates in Japan that I've worked with who are on my shows, and even Chuck. You know, Chuck was saying something about it last night. My mate in Japan, he's African American. I've worked with him for I've known him for probably 12 years. We did a couple of TV things together. He's been on one of the movies that I did, and he was on the last TV show. He was a guest on that. And even Kizzy, he's a Cameroonian Nigerian fellow that's been on the podcast, and who's been a mate of mine for years. And I had him on a TV show with me as well. And it was good to try and break the stigma that my mates there, because I worked with a lot of Nigerians and that, running clubs and pubs and bars and that over there. And people are very standoffish of him. Don't get me wrong, he's a bit nuts. He said to the director, fuck off and let us do this, you know, like it was hilarious. But they're just like, oh, this is why you get a bad rap. I'm going, nah, but you got to understand, you're working with foreigners. We have a different way of approaching things. We have a different way of expressing ourselves. And if you're intimidated by that, or you've got a problem with that, that's your fucking problem. So I was trying to break the sort of stigma and everything. Even myself with tats, you know, these are illegal. It's illegal to get tattooed there. You can't go to a gym. You can't go to a pool. You can't get a gym membership. There's a lot of things. And I think the protests there are now going on about that sort of discrimination. Apparently, I don't know. You know, my missus just said, she's Japanese and she doesn't speak a lick English, but she was just going, oh, all the celebrities over in Japan are tweeting about it. I said, yeah, because they're cunts. You know, they're out there going, oh, you know, look at the poor black people of America. And I'm going, you guys don't give a fuck. You don't understand anything about that. You know what I mean? You're just out there going, oh, look how nice we are, and looking for those likes, follows, and shares. I thought, you're a pack of cunts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what are you doing? What are you doing to help the situation, you fucking pricks? You're part of the problem. You know, they
are, and I'm right outside New York City, man. I don't typically say exactly,
really?
But I'm like right in it, kind of, and I'm seeing, you know, really a lot of very devastating things happening right now. And in the
Fucking
midst of
oath.
this economic depression that we're falling into from the coronavirus lockdowns, now we've got people's businesses that they've worked their whole lives to create just burned to the ground. I don't see how
What about their lives?
Right, exactly. It doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest with you. None
Do,
whatsoever.
do they not matter? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That's their livelihoods. How do they feed their fucking kids?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And who are you to go ahead and burn this man's business to the ground that he's spent his life savings investing in just because you're angry at what, the police? Like half of these guys out there, and look, I've had run-ins with the law too. Like everyone gets, yelled at by a cop every now and again. Or look, I get it. Like there's a lot of messed up stuff that goes on with police brutality. Not saying there's not. I get it.
Totally.
As much as I can, I get it. But at the same point, man, what's going on now with the looting and rioting, not making anything better in my personal opinion.
And it's got nothing to do with the cause, I believe. I've got mates like I was just speaking to Sean actually, who's a guy in Jamaica, Queens. I was teaching there a few years ago. Fuck, when was the last time? Anyway, we were back and forth to New York and New Jersey just up until last year. This time last year I was there, I think. Was it this time last year? Yeah. And I just saw a video on my phone and popped up, and that, and I was driving through New York. We're heading back out to JFK. And I thought, fuck, man, it was only a year ago that I was there. And now, the obviously worldwide pandemic, but just talking to Sean and some of the guys over there in Jersey and that as well, I'm going, you guys, or I kept checking in with them. And I think it was Sean that was telling me in the first couple of weeks, he'd lost 6 people in his inner circle around him that had died. And it was just fucking mental. Then there's the economic crisis, and then there's all this sort of thing going on. And I'm thinking, all this looting and riot, all this stuff going on in communities that they like to call lower economic, whatever you call it. Do you really think that the places that you're looting and or smashing up or vandalizing, whatever it is, you think none of those businesses are black? You know what I mean? I hate to categorize them as that because I think that's a bit, counterproductive. But the point is that if you're screaming Black Lives Matter while you're spraying this on the business of a black fellow that's got, you know what I mean? They're like, I'm like, how the fuck are you helping him? You know what I mean? If he matters so much just because of his color or whatever you want to call it. I'm like, we need to, Morgan Freeman said that. He said something about, someone asked him in an interview, they go, what's your plan to stop racism? And he goes, stop fucking talking about it. Why do we have to distinguish? Why do we have to divide? This sort of thing. I thought that's a good point. Obviously, people feel differently about it, and that's fine. But he had a good point. Like, why do we have to distinguish? Why does there have to be such difference and divide? And people do have their reasons. I get that. Don't get me wrong. But I thought that was also a good point, because when you're out there, like I've got a cousin, so they're talking about Indigenous people here in Australia, right? And my half brother, who's got a different mum, his mum's 1/8 or something Aboriginal, so black, if you want to call it that, whatever, Indigenous, right? And he looks a lot whiter than me. He's blonde hair, blue eyes, and you couldn't tell the difference, but he's entitled to different things because of that background and heritage. And my point being is, like, well, because his mum's got a different, and he's got nothing to do with that way of the culture or anything like that, but he's actually entitled to a lot more. It's a very strange sort of predicament we found ourselves in. It's like, people are people. We look the fucking same. Do you know what I mean? I might have tattoos, or I might wear a different shirt to you, and that's, to me, in terms of color, ethnicity, or preferences, and that's about the same thing. It's just what makes us individuals. Why the fuck does it matter?
I'm with you 100% on that, man. Like, we're all who we are, and we're all people. Like, why do we got to bring race into it one way or the other at all, man? Like, I mean, look, I get it. Like, I didn't grow up in that neighborhood, right? I didn't, in many cases, maybe go through what some of those guys went through, talking about the lower socioeconomic places or whatever. But we all have our struggles, and we're all freaking people. Like, why do you want to? I don't know. Why do you want to divide anything when we could be so much stronger together and all that, right?
I had, the first time I was detained in Japan, they pulled me up for a light, not on a bike. I'd borrowed a bike from my former stepfather and father-in-law, and it didn't have a light. So I'm riding to work. I'm like, fuck, it's like minus whatever degrees. I got this down jacket on over my suit. And I had a meeting, so I had to scoot up to this place. And anyway, the cops pulled me up, and they've gone, hey, and they're racing after me, and they go, oh, just let you know, your bike light's not on. Oh, fuck, can you show me how? I don't, this is, father-in-law's bike, whatever. And they've got registration numbers on them too, so they can scan it and figure all that out. But he goes, show us your passport. I said, I don't have my passport on me right now. I'm about to go to work. I work at the club just over there. It's one of the biggest club in town, la la la. And he's going, well, let us search your shit. And I said, well, I don't have to, but I will if this will speed up the process and show you that I don't have ID and I've actually done nothing wrong. And there's all these other people drunk on the street, walking through traffic and stopping traffic and passed out in the garden over there. Other people without lights on. It's clear discrimination. Now, on that point, most people I hang out with and know that are foreigners over there, although I don't hang out with a lot of them that I know, who may have a similar background to myself or interest, are usually carrying something that they shouldn't. And if I was a cop over there, I'd probably stop them and search them, rightfully so. But I was on my way to work and I was being polite and everything. And long story boring, they were just pushing the agenda, saying we can arrest you, this, that, and that. I said, why? What for? I haven't done anything. And they said, oh, we're going to take you to your house and get the passport and your ID. And I said, there's no fucking way you're coming to my house. I didn't want them to come in and see, what I've got there or what's going on. Not that I had anything incredibly illegal or anything, but that's all I'm going to say. I didn't want to go on there for a number of reasons. And it drew a lot of attention and show where I live and everything to everyone around me. So I thought, fuck that. And then we got in the car and they took me to the police station. And I said, I'm actually right now working with one of the special ops groups in Tokyo. And I work for this company for security, in private security, and also head of OPSEC in one of these companies that I was working with, and also a advisor of education and training to Bond Security, the biggest security group in Tokyo, taking care of all the clubs. So I was really getting involved with the Koan over there, which is like the regulators of health and safety for premises, right? And also they issue different certifications and the equivalent for like security licensing and stuff like that. So I knew my way around. I knew, sort of what laws and regulations were, not in terms of just my rights, but about what the fuck's, what. So anyway, and I told them this and they said, do you have proof of this? I said, yeah, I could call the guys that I work with right now and you can speak to them if you want. And they're just trying to be really difficult. And I had to get my former brother-in-law to go and pick up my a folder that I have with all my work information, company information, and my ID, and they brought it in. And this cop, one of the cops, was, fast forward to the end, one of the top sergeants came in and he sat down, he's having a cigarette with me. This is back when I was smoking 12 years ago, like an idiot. And then at the end, the guys that actually detained me and put me in the car, one of them was in Caesar and sitting there like bowing to me. And I'm like, what the fuck? This cop's like, you've gone from treating me like an absolute piece of shit to, I've never seen that. I've never seen a cop kneel, you know what I mean? And I think he might have caught wind of who we were working with and whatever, and really tried to make sure that this wasn't going to come back at him. But I was like, they let us go. I was 3 hours late for work and it could have jeopardized my job and everything. But I'd encountered things like that before where they had really no grounds to go as far as they did. But I can kind of see why, having seen what foreigners are like. And in Okinawa, man, where there's a lot of US military bases and things like that, and they do have a lot of issues. When I was there was a lot of discrimination, even just from locals, because they were just sick of shit going on, sick of incidences and that, So, and it really does suck that there's just some bad apples that represent the majority. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I can kind of see it from both perspectives. It's just, yeah, my little rant there wasn't very interesting. Sorry, but I'd just say no.
Actually, it was fascinating, and I've had similar experiences overseas like that. In Israel, certain Arab countries, they see a white guy with the tattoos and the shaved head. Immediately, they'll pull you in the secondary. They'll question you. What are you doing here? All of this stuff. And, generally speaking, guy like you, look, I'm here working with whoever, right? Special freaking double secret ops here, and get out of my hair. But you were polite enough to tell them, excuse me, like, I'm sorry, but I know my rights. But a lot of people, Luke, I don't think would be that professional about it, if you know what I mean.
I definitely, but I think being cooperative is a big thing too. I wasn't trying to be a cunt. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's very important. And I got myself in trouble with the Australian Border Force one time by accident. Coming back, I'd just been working in Brazil. We're at the counter-terrorist training facility just outside Sao Paulo. And I had one of the jackets, and I was basically not fleeing Japan, but getting out because of the tsunami and everything. So I stuffed all my shit in my bag. I threw my boots on, and I had this jacket, and I was able to cover most of the patches and stuff with my bag anyway. I just want to bring that stuff back because it's really important to me. I've gotten plaques and different medals and medallions. There might be some sitting there. I might pull out for you later from different tier 1 groups and all these other sort of things. And I want to bring that back with me. I just thought there's no fucking way I'm leaving it over there. I didn't know how long I was going to be back in Australia for, whatever. This is 2011. And anyway, I came through and straight away, because I had boots and this sort of bomber style jacket on that had this patch of a tactical. Well, that's really stupid of me, but anyway, I was trying to cover it, and I walked through, and straight away border forces going, "Oi, come here!" And I'm going, "Fuck, here we go." And they go, "Show me your passport." And I said, "Man, I'm Aussie. I'm local." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, why are you dressed like that?" And I said, "Well, it's not that I dressed up or anything, but he's like, why are you wearing boots? And you got this big." I had 2 bags with me, and a bunch of shit. And anyway, they went through it all and they found throwing knives. It wasn't on a carry-on, obviously. It was chicken. They found throwing knives, which are really illegal here, and I forgot about that. What do you call, police baton, some cuffs, this and that. And I just finished up some training in the States for instructor certification for RCB police baton. Was it the longer extendable one that you can use with 2 hands? And then what else? Cuffing and all this other sort of shit. So I had a bunch of stuff with me that I thought I want to bring back. Brought it back, and they go, "You've got no reason for this." I went, "Really?" I work with a company in the States. I work here, there, and everywhere. Here's all my paperwork. And they go, "Well, unless you have certifications to prove that you've just done these courses and you teach these courses, la la la, we're going to find you and take them off you." I went, "Sweet. I have them all on my phone." So I showed them the screenshots. I could email, so I have them ready in case anyone fucking asks, I don't think I had the paper versions then, but it's not hard to make some calls and figure that shit out either, right? So, and even I think my NRA instructor credentials, instructor credentials were still valid at the time. And I had it in my wallet and go, "Well, here's another reason. So, because they didn't think I'd have that. And that happened in Malaysia as well. I got detained for having a blue gun, which was really stupid of me, but it was in check-in, and that was to teach basic safe usage and handling of firearms in a fundamental manipulation course in Thailand. And then we had our second Raw Silat, gathering on Langkawi. So when I got there, they're like, "Well, this is for firearms, so it's part of a firearm, so that it goes under the law of, you can do 7 years jail." I'm like, "Oh, go fuck yourself." I called my mate, who's local royalty, an actual royal member, and he came down and sat with the cops, and I was supposed to be interrogation in this room for like 3 hours, and I went and had curry with my mates. I walked out, went and had curry. We just talk about this on another podcast. Who the fuck was there with me? He was going, "Yeah, that's what you just bought." Was it Wakim? I think it was Wakim, yeah. We've got a thing that we've been doing called the bakery, where we just get really baked and sit there and talk shit.
Yeah.
I haven't put that out yet, but I have to edit it because there's some stories I can't fucking do. And one of them was me standing up and fucking off out of this police station. And then one of them goes, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to have some fucking curry." And I just walk off, sit with my guys, because there's probably a dozen of us or whatever, come in from the UK and Japan, although Australia and all this. And we'd all met up, so we're all together. And then I got pulled, and I'm like, "Fuck." So they all came to the police station, and there was a curry house at the end, a Muslim Indian place. There's really good food over there, Muslim Indian stuff. And so I said, "Fuck this, I'm going to go have a curry." And it was fine. I didn't get fined. I didn't get put in jail or anything. And TJ and I are actually talking about when I was detained in Brazil. I've never been fined or charged or anything. I'm always crossing my T's, dotting my I's, always prepared. But I had a fuck up with the visa in Brazil. That's what happened. Yeah. Short, so. But it's just important to be polite, and you catch more flies with honey. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice, And there's no need to be a cunt. So,
I mean, especially with a guy like, so you're going in there to do, counterterrorism training, things like really official stuff, and they're stopping you. They don't know what's going on. They're border guards.
Exactly. Yeah, they're doing their job.
They're doing their job. They're doing good at it. But at the same time, you could be a real cunt and say, "Screw off. Like, I'm here to do unofficial business," and you're not. Yep. You're being polite. But that's really what separates, I think, a warrior, a samurai type, from some thug.
One thing I just wanted to mention really quick, man. I'm by no means nothing special. When I did go out and work in Brazil, that however many times it was, we haven't gone lately, but it was as a specialist for my craft. It was not because I'm some sort of counter-terrorist dude or whatever. I'm nothing special to these, especially to compared to like our guys like Aparecido, who was special ops for 21 years in GATS and COI, Command Operational Specialized or whatever the fuck. I worked with COI but not GATS. And anyway, so the reason I haven't been doing as much of the firearm stuff and that lately is we've actually got some guys. I can talk about how I got into that actually, because you're talking about the tactical industry. I would prefer our guys who are active, which some of them are, for example, our Los Angeles branch, trainer, representative, instructor, whatever you want to call it. He's active, LAPD. And we've got a few other guys who are active who only train and facilitate training within their groups. So they're not public. So we have a bunch of groups who are not public. We have, for example, a guy who's on our doing these live sessions with me who contracts in Iraq, former Japanese special forces, but he's training his security team over there when they can, you know what I mean? And it's not out there advertised. I got groups, Aussie, New Zealand, Canadian guys who have done trainer courses and do follow-up training with me, do sessions like this where I just go over what they're doing, how they can improve, give them ideas to do variations of their training to what we call layering. So we will always start off with like a base drill, and then we want to pressure test that obviously, but what are the stepping stones between here and there? So my point is that I'm just in the field of education and training for my specialty, which is motions, movement, if you want to call it that, and the combative side of things. And I was in the pursuit of aspiring to be a weapons specialist, not so much in the terms of firearms, but although that was something I've done since I was a very little kid, I just wanted to be as versed as I possibly could in all sort of facets of that, meaning not just empty hands, obviously that's one aspect, but from your edge weapon to impact weapon to improvised weapon to firearms. And I had the opportunity to work with a few companies out in the States and do a lot of certifications and training to improve my own skill set. It just so happened that while they're running their tactical courses, they'd have me do the empty hand side of things, or look at weapon retention in terms of risk management, so applied officer safety. So how we can avoid and prevent getting into really horrible situations, for lack of a better term, and then how to manage or mitigate that threat, manage that threat when it's imminent in a functional, simple way, looking in terms of the physical, the situation. You know, the situational and spatial awareness is really that relation between, as you know, I'm not trying to tell you this, but I'm just saying for anyone listening, is the relationship between you and that other person. So how am I positioned in regards or in relation to him, for example, and what are my options in this position or in this situation? What are my priorities? What are my, you might know it as rules of engagement or standard operational procedures. What confinements am I working within? What are the constraints of which I'm working within? So we take all that into account. And I've always said at the beginning of every single thing I've given, I am not anything special. I'm not you guys. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. That's not my stance by any means. I'm just going to give you some advice on some of the things that I understand and that I've found to work because of A, B, and C, always working with non-compliance and aggressive behavior and all that sort of thing. So we understand concepts that work and concepts that are fuckery, you know, and you've got groups that I've worked with some spec ops guys, tier one teams, and some of the techniques that they showed me from back when they were learning at the beginning was this old Aikido fuckery. And I'm going, so you think that that's the realest thing? And he goes, well, I'm the fucking realist. Okay, you are, and you could probably pull off whatever you want through sheer determination and willpower, and just because you're a fucking unit. A unit here is like an awesome guy, you know. And but that doesn't mean that technique is so applicable for the average Joe or anyone, an operative, whatever you want to call it. Now in this day and age, you know, people, that type of training requires compliance, which I think equals complacency, and complacency kills. So when you start to have these, we'll give these presentations, these talks in front of guys like that, we're speaking the same language. We're reading from the same sheet of paper. They know that yes, complacency kills, and we can't train with someone compliant after we do that base level of training, like understanding the motions and how it's applied and basic applied strategies, tactics. And then how to pressure test that. Once we're at that point where we're doing scenario-based simulation training and or sparring, we have to be able to apply ourselves efficiently without thinking about it. So you'll be thinking about the what in the beginning, and then you'll be thinking about the how and the when and all that. But you want to train to a point where you because we don't have time to think about it, do we? Well, how'd that fucking technique go again? You know, you haven't got time for that. So we want to train them past that point through very, very simple functional gross motor skills, obviously. So when you, as I said, we're having the same conversation, but by no means am I of the same caliber as a lot of the people I'm working with. You know, they are specialists. One of the groups I worked with recently, I said, how would you define your job title? And he goes, we do bad things to bad people and have been doing, we've been doing it ever since. I went, fuck, that's brilliant. Bad things to bad people.
That shit right there, man. And those guys are, you're so right, those guys who are the tier 1 special forces guys are just beasts. Like, they could do whatever they, like, they're Olympic class athletes. So for them to like fight somebody is way different from your average civilian who needs to defend themselves on the street or even street cop.
Exactly. And they are so competitive, and they're 100% everything. We were out for my birthday in Brazil one time, and it was like it was as if it was a competition to see who could get the most fucked up and still drive. And I was like, you cunts are mental.
That sounds
I wasn't. But yeah, sorry. My only point of that was just to clarify, because, you know, we're talking, this is a tactical podcast, and a lot of people from various backgrounds who have given the ultimate sacrifice, you know, even if it's in terms of their own mental health. I can't put myself in the same category as them by any means. I've got a lot of mates who are active service right now, who are, some are retired, some are contracting, consulting, doing things like I am, but I'm a specialist in what I do, but that doesn't mean I'm of the same, come from the same cloth, or whatever you want to call, as they are. They are just, I think, the ultimate warrior type of mentality, because the samurai is really about service. All shit aside, all, you know, feelings and materialistic sort of values, or you know, that sort of thing. They have priorities, and the priority is to get the job done, you know, to serve. So when I see servicemen and women out there risking everything in such a thankless way, you know, knowing that there's a chance that they might not come home to their missus and kids, or husband and kids, whatever it is, and still go out there and face that daily threat, and not knowing, you know, just in the unknown. I think I'm not willing to do that now and not see my daughter or my missus again. I've been through too much shit in my own lifetime with my own drama and fuckery. I just go, I can't imagine what these guys are going through. So just to be clear, I don't want to put myself in the same category as them, because I appreciate them. I have the utmost respect for the job they're doing, the life they live, and not just while they're doing it, but post. They have to live with those thoughts and the consequences of their actions, you know?
It's got to be rough for a guy like that, or girl, who is going out there and forced to really, like you said, do bad things to bad people. Yeah, they're bad people, but you're still doing bad things. And I imagine that living with those consequences is a challenge.
I work with a lot of broken men, put it that way.
Yeah.
I have guys that they have, since, you know, as a byproduct of their PTSD. One guy I know has that fibromyalgia, whatever is it called? He's in constant pain and think
Meiosis, yeah.
Something like that. The DVA here in Australia, Department of Veteran Affairs, they wouldn't recognise his a couple of his sicknesses actually, or illnesses or conditions. I know a lot of guys who have been fucked over. They, as they put it, they were disposable. Obviously, they were used, abused, and then just thrown away when they were no longer useless. Because a couple of them, that guy in particular, he was blown up by an IED. He was in a vehicle that went over one, and he got pretty fucked up. A couple of guys had some more serious injuries. But anyway, I think the mental scarring that it puts on some of these guys that I've worked with and are still working with, you, I have to be very patient with them and just understand that when they lash out or when they do think, like one of the other guys, a British guy I was working with just recently too, he's getting really worked. We had a really sweet gig, a really, really decent contract. Put it this way, it was international and it was consulting. It was fucking huge money. And it was really, really, it was a sweet deal. But he was going into that combat mode already. Well, how do we fucking know it's this? How do we know? What the fuck? And I've gone, bro, the guy we're working with is a US Army captain and who still works with me now. He's a good mate and everything. I might have him on the podcast. He was actually in a role out there. I won't say too much until I talk to him again, but just to clarify. But anyway, the point is, he was being this other guy, this British guy, who was based out in Afghanistan for 12 years as private contractor, was getting really, and he was from tier 1 background as well, but he was really getting fucking heated and full on, and we couldn't even further the conversation. I said, bro, just relax. Hey, do you want to go grab a coffee? We'll just we can pick this up another time, man. I can see it's kind of stressing you out a bit, and you're playing out the scenarios in your head about the worst case scenario. And I know that you're programmed and in the habit of thinking like that, but this is just a business deal, man. We're going to figure out those details hopefully sooner than later, but we need to talk about this right now. And so my point of that is that I've got to work with those guys who are scarred and who are still suffering, and still face the job every day selflessly. So I just try to keep that in mind, that again, I'm nothing like them. I don't consider myself anything like them, but I sympathize to some. I hope that doesn't sound condescending. Condescending. I understand to some degree that they're in pain, and I can't judge them for that, especially as they're given the ultimate sacrifice of their lives and their freedom. Really, they're out there, as they said, disposable. And they're fucking hurting, man. These guys can't live a normal life anymore. That's what I mean by the ultimate sacrifice. They just can't. They can't come here to Australia like I am and just chill and be surfing every day like I am with my kid and just fucking hang it. That's that white privilege, right? My sister says that a lot. I said, "How's things?" She was at my old man. She goes, "Oh, just enjoying this white privilege." It's horrible. It's a bad joke. But yeah, we are so lucky to have what we have here, and it's because people like that are out there giving themselves, committing to that selfless role, and not that they don't give a fuck about the consequences, but they understand that there's that high risk of them not coming home, and it's because guys are like that out there actively doing in those roles. Even our guys here in CT some of the guys I'm working with in CT, fuck man, they can't function. They cannot function on a normal. You cannot sit down and have a normal conversation without them. Fuck, it's hard to explain. They are. It's as if they're paranoid. It's as if they're emotionally unstable, and they have a very different logic now because everyone is a suspect. Everyone must be doing the wrong thing. Everyone, you know what I mean? Every situation we're in, it must be high risk, and it's just like, fuck, I think some of them don't know how to switch off, and it's a little bit sad,
It is. And you talk about guys not knowing how to switch off, and I've seen that time and time again as well. And a lot of those guys I've known, they really like to drink, they're drunk every night, whatever else, and it's just the way they gotta kind of operate. But there's also guys out there who really take it with stride, who I know have been through the ringer. And you wouldn't know. I mean, they don't advertise it. They don't talk about it. But, meanwhile, if you really talk private one-on-one, like they've seen some shit. Yeah, so it really, and I don't know what it is. I think it's just personality, to be honest with you, but I couldn't really guess. But it's interesting to see how different personalities really are with different scenarios that play out in their lives.
I think they need to find something to put that drive into, because some of the guys from tier one type groups that I've worked with have that 110% sort of beast mode all the time. And I've got a mate here that's moved back here, and he's opened up a fitness sort of center, personal training thing. And that's his thing. He's always running. He's always working out. He's always training people. So he feels like he's got that sense of purpose, and he's putting all that energy and effort and time into something that's so productive, but it's that release. Do you know what I mean? It's and what you're saying before about guys on the piss, like on alcohol, I know other guys have turned to drugs and gone the exact opposite route. But I think, like you said, it depends on their personality, and some of them have, not that it's luck, but have chosen, well, I'll do fitness or whatever it may be, and just chosen a hobby and something to apply themselves that 110% and then be fucking good at it, just really shine it within that sort of chosen realm, if you want to call it that. So that's kind of cool to see too.
And I think fitness is really a big thing. I mean, not only just for a hobby, but for like emotional stability, for releasing the endorphins, getting the blood flowing. Like, It really is, in my opinion, the fountain of youth.
Fucking oath. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's why I run in the mornings, because otherwise I'm a cunt.
And it's a drug in its own right.
Hmm.
I want to ask you, dude, how did you get into all of this martial arts, combatives, all of that?
Hmm.
And I know that you've been
You
doing it
mean
for a
in the
while.
beginning or with these tactical dudes? Sorry.
From the beginning. I mean, how did you get
Okay.
into? How did you learn so much about combatives and then come out and kind of share it with the world?
I think it's a massive process either way, you know. So to answer the question in the beginning, how did I get started? My old man was a cop. He's retired now, obviously, he's an old fucker. Less and less grumpy, so we have a relationship now, which is quite interesting. He was on the phone to him the other day. He goes, "Oh, I fucking love kicking indoors. Oh, tell you what, fuck, it just going on about smashing guns and fucking. Oh, it was mental, mental. Some of the things he comes, but he actually called me the other day after that that copper fucking killed that poor fella in Minneapolis, and he was going, "Isn't this fucked?" He goes, "If this was Australia, someone would have booted him off, and rightfully so." And this is a cop saying this.
Yeah.
He goes, "We've done all this training, we've had so many situations, and I know those guys are on edge, and they've probably had a bunch of guys that they've restrained and put down like that, who the second they let off the pressure, they've jumped up and tried to stab him. I get that, but seriously, that was too fucking long." And I was going, "Yeah, wouldn't he have transitioned to a different position, sat the guy up and done?" He goes, "You're on his fucking neck. How could like common sense? Come on." So he's really it's interesting to hear his perspective on that. But anyway, he was the one that got me into it. He ran gyms or dojos, I guess you'd call them back then, the early 80s. Since I was a little kid, grew up with all that. And although he was a little bit into traditional martial arts, I guess back then, it was quite hard then because of sparring bare knuckle. And through the academy, he was taught catch wrestling. So what he was sharing with me pre sort of school age, because I was getting picked on a little bit. Everyone thought I was like they used to call me some sort of big retard or something. And I know you're not supposed to use the R word. I get that. I've got special needs people in the family that I can't talk, I can't say that in front of certain family members. But the point is, that's what I was getting called because people thought that, I might have been 8, I might have been 5 and they thought I was 8 or 9 because I was bigger and whatever. So I'd get picked on and bullied on the way home, and I come home with maybe a scar or a black eye or something, and I was probably sobbing about it like a little bitch. And my old man used to say things like, "I'll give you a fucking reason to cry." He was that sort of strict sort of upbringing, which I appreciate. Not bitching or poor me, let's create a movement and all this sort of thing. Like, fuck, it's and I'm not trying to take away from what's going on right now by any means. I'm not taking the piss out of that. I actually, as I said to you just before, I agree with standing up and saying something. That's as long as it's peaceful and productive. My point is that I had that upbringing, and he's trying to teach me to I guess refuse to be the victim, and to not take that stance of victimhood or victim mentality. I get the shits when people sort of play that victim card and really try to capitalize on that and get attention. And I had this issue with my daughter's friend's mother recently. She was saying, "Oh, children need a safe space and we should guide them through this conversation. And, this is not," and I said, "You're blowing this way out of proportion and you're teaching them to have a victim mentality. I cannot disagree more. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but we need to be calm and we need to be honest and respectful to each other, and not having," she's very emotionally unstable and was trying to psychoanalyze the kids and being all this. I said, "Let them fucking figure it out, teach them some life skills." And I said to my daughter, "If you could apologize to that person first," because when I was her age as a teenager, I had friends that were fucking idiots and whatever, and parted ways. And now I still think about it. I think, "Oh, I hope they're all right. I hope they're doing well," and that. And all these things you learn as a kid, be it through whatever sort of violence experience of fighting or whatever, you learn how to interact with people. And what I've learned from working a lot of doors and close protection gigs and whatever, you've got to be long-sighted and try to keep remain positive, obviously, but have a positive outcome in mind. And I think that in the beginning, when I was first learning how to scrap, it was always about, and I'm just using that loosely as a term to sort of relate to, always trying to prove myself, you know what I mean? Like always trying to be, well, like, I'm not that fucking idiot. I'm not, I don't care how many of you said, "Let's fucking do it." Older kids and bigger kids and so that's kind of how I got started. I was obviously obsessed with martial arts. I was doing as many as I could when I was younger, and sort of took pride in that I was doing several arts at once and this and that. And I was, I guess, stuck in that because it was a period in time as well within martial arts that I think people thought the more you knew, the better you are. Do you know what I mean? If you had more ranks in this, that, and the other. And I have a lot of pieces of paper that, excuse me, say nice things about me. Someone asked me the other day, "Oh, have you done such and such style?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah." And they go, "What about this style?" I went, "Yeah." And they go, "What styles haven't you done?" I said, "Well, I tried everything that I could, but that doesn't mean that I'm a professional expert in this, that, and that. I'm not saying that at all, but I have spent the last 15 years constantly traveling Southeast Asia and picking up what I can. And just the way to get into those doors with open arms, so to speak, is just have that respect and be humble, not be like, "Oh, I fucking know everything. Check this out." Often it's the exact opposite. They're trying to break down what you think you know and prove that you're a piece of shit and don't know anything. And then they'll really open up to you. And that's, I've talked about that heaps before. But so to get as far as I have, in a martial respect, I guess, is just being open and having a white belt mentality. I still don't think I know a ton of stuff. I've been a blue belt in BJJ now for over 2 years and haven't been promoted once at my local gym, and I just don't give a fuck. I don't know why it is. I've got mates who are now 2-stripe purple belts who were blue belts when I started there. Do you know what I mean? I went, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, some of them are going 3 times a day, 4 days a week, and I have a life. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm actually a blue belt as well, and I've been a blue belt for a long time, man. So I know exactly what you're talking about there. I go when I can, like.
Yeah, I was there 2 days a week, at least 2 days a week for a good stint before the coronavirus, and I was doing privates with our coach, who's a Brazilian fella, who's really awesome. I'm really cool with him, but I don't know. I don't fucking care. Yeah. Everyone looks at me and go, "Bro, you still believe?" Let's see how we go. Maybe I'll do good. Maybe I won't. Maybe you'll. We had a new brown belt Kiwi fella that was six. Was he? A few inches taller than me, so maybe 6'7", 6'8". And it's funny how two bigger guys in the gym kind of look at each other and go, "What's up? How you doing, man?" Like, we sort of relate to each other. You know what I mean? And he's like, "Hey, man." I said, "Yeah, good. What's going on?" And he goes, "Do you want to roll?" I said, "Fucking oath, man. I want to see what you can show me." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're a big cunt, and it's going to be really hard to fucking deal with you and your weight. So, yeah, let's do it, man." He goes, "Where do you want to start?" I said, "Oh, this is going back, probably 18 months ago now. So I need to work off my back more in so-and-so position." He goes, "Fuck, man, like, it's a good approach." I said, "No, I need to start off in the weakest position and see where my faults are, especially with a big cunt like you, because a lot of these guys are skinny little fucking, vegan hipsters, whatever, which is great, do themselves, peace and love, all the rest. But still, it's different when there's a 6'8", 130 kilo, what's that, 280-pound dude just trying to frape you, gorilla fuck you, and you're just going, "Oh, fuck," and I'm not allowed to hit him. All right, fuck. So,
the grappling mentality, man, without being able to strike anything or like freaking any of that stuff. That, I mean, it's so big in the RBC community, reality-based community. Trying to just grapple, it's a shift in paradigms.
I think it's a good thing to train a mentality, and I know a lot of people probably talk about this, sorry to bore you, but I think it's just good to learn to lose, man, and constantly lose.
Yeah.
I got a younger brother, half brother I was telling you about before, and he wanted to do some stuff, and he goes, "Well, I don't want to go with you, it'll just fuck me up." I said, "No, that I go to my gym to get fucked up." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I was explaining this to my Japanese students back at the headquarters. I said, "I want to lose. You don't understand. I go to the gym to lose. I need to find people better than me so that I can get better. And the only reason that they're better is because they've been submitted more than I have." Right. Do you know what I mean? The only reason they're further is because they've had more lessons, and you get a lesson by getting tapped. In this particular realm, in sparring, it's as in hand-to-hand fucking, what do you call, Thai boxing, for example, is kind of the opposite but kind of the same, if you know what I mean. You're being punched in the fucking head. You're playing the face punch game, and that really gets people to a point of they learn a bit about themselves and go, "Well, fuck this is definitely not for me," or "I need to get stronger. This is where I need to be to improve myself." Physically, mentally, emotionally, all those things. But I think BJJ and catch wrestling for me has been a great, a good thing to find that are very in-depth arts that I can learn a lot about and be the white belt. I can walk into the gym here and a lot of places I go when I'm on the road and just fucking learn. I don't have to teach. I don't have to stand there and give these lectures or make sure everyone understands everything from A to Z or whatever and elaborate on things. I can just fucking just roll and just get us. It's just such a good thing, man, just to be the student. I mean, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I never do. I don't give a fuck, you know. It's I'd rather be just training and having fun on the mats, you know, learning shit. You feel a sense of forward movement and progression with that. Momentum brings a sense of not just confidence, but I think it's very empowering too. You know, when you feel yourself progress, I'm not talking about particularly like getting more stripes or whatever. I'm talking about, well, fuck, last week I might have been having trouble in a half guard transition to whatever the fuck, and this week I'm doing better at that. You know, some weeks are really bad for whatever reason. After you go back for a while, you might not get any submissions for the first couple of sessions, and you think, fuck. And it should motivate you to get back in there, to do your solo drills, to do your workouts with you repping on your dummies and whatever. And I think it just really teaches you a lot about yourself. But in terms of so the combatives, sorry for the rant, man. Fuck. With the combatives, it was more about workmen. So it's just in terms of how that started. My team that I had was at 2005, I think, 2005, 2006. We needed to figure out what was real and what was fuckery, what was functional, what was fuckery, because I would come back, we'd have probably Tuesday or Wednesday nights that we're able to do this. So I had a gym that was sort of our headquarters, and we had a few branches in there back then. This is here in Australia. And we were doing concerts and clubs and bars as well, yeah, I guess, and even events, like a couple of biker events and shit like that. And I'd say to my guys, you know, we were still in the mindset of thinking the more you knew, the better you were. But then we'd get to that point of one say, for example, I don't think operative is the right term, although that's what it's called in certifications here in Australia, and that got me in trouble with semantics back a while back. People are like, what are you saying? You're this and that. And I'm going, it's a Cert 3 in security operations. Do you know what I mean? That's what it fucking is here. It's your certifications are all security operations Cert 2 and 3, and then from there I've got diploma of security and risk management, obviously too, but a Cert 4 before that, and that's one that you can do at like your tech colleges here. Point being is that one of my guys, for example, there's A and B, guy A, guy B, whatever. One of them would be trying to do something and move in a way that wasn't in sync with the other guy. So A is trying to do this and B is trying to do that. And we're going, okay, well, fuck. Obviously, you guys know a lot of techniques and you're trying to figure out what's best on the fly. We need to figure out, one, how we can communicate and maneuver together as one group, as one whole, you know, and then also what's the most functional route to that. So for example, with your martial techniques, you might have a straight line punches coming at you, you know, this sort of thing. And you think, well, in Kali Salat, all that other stuff, I could do this, or I could do, you know, cross hand, same side, whatever the fuck. Kung Fu as well, obviously, or I could do so many things from whatever it is. But then you think, well, once we get to sparring, and I found this out one of my first nights on the door, actually. I found this out. I was trying to do something and it wasn't working, put it that way. I thought, yeah, I'll try my move or whatever. And I'm bang, think, fuck. And then you realize, I know Muay Thai. And then you think, fuck you. And you just result back to that normal, how about this cunt, you know, and it just, everything goes out the window and you go back to basics. There's nothing better than having good basics. And you'll only learn that from either sparring or being in a scrap, proper, like just about life-threatening scrap sometimes when it's a lot of people involved. But so we got our guys, we'd get our guys back of a Tuesday or Wednesday night, even Sunday afternoons, a lot of the time too, because I was teaching from 3:30 in the afternoon until about 9 at night, go home, have a shower, get ready, and I'd be at the club by 10:30 the latest. I'd be working till 3:30, 4 a.m. I'd go and train with my mentor on the beach. We do Tai Chi and Kung Fu every morning. I move close to him just for that. And then, so yeah, I was getting in 2 sessions a day at least, one learning, one teaching, and then actually having to implement a lot of things on the door with a team. So when we're sparring and we're doing simulations, as I said, just like a real situation, all the fuckery and fluff went out the window. All the fat that needed to be cut we're starting to realize, like, fuck man, this isn't, you know, it hasn't got a place here really, because it can get you in more trouble. If, for example, when I go to BJJ and the coach is trying to, well, when he's teaching self-defense, I really wish I didn't go that day, because they make fun of Aikido and all that and the traditional stuff in Japan, although they've all got Japanese tattoos and shirts and all that sort of thing, and try and tell me about samurai stuff. I'm like, awesome. It's what they were doing is ikkyo from Aikido. You know, I've got a fourth dan in Aikido Jiu-Jitsu as well from Japan, and one of the first moves from the basic Aikido, the current modern Aikido, just a kotegaeshi, like this type of thing, was what they were teaching. But they actually teach them a lot worse, with less mechanical understanding of structure and alignment and all these sort of things. They're fucking incredible on the ground, and they are actually sports guys, and their neurological pathways and their understanding of options on the ground when someone's not punching you, by the way, is awesome. But what they call self-defense to me is kind of like very reactive and often putting you in a position of disadvantage. And those things don't add up to me, as I said to you before, having worked with such non-compliance, violent and aggressive behavior tendencies like that. And you have an appreciation for what's possible and what's probable. Now, it's possible if my partner, my training buddy, whatever, stands there with his hand out and does that and lets me do my 27-step move and waits till I'm finished and everything, then I can do my fucking pose and whatever. And that was all good and fun, but there's nothing fun or pretty about a violent encounter or high-risk scenario situation, environment where you need those dynamic skills and the ability to have that, I guess, clarity and be able to improvise, adapt, and overcome, and apply the OODA loop and all those sort of things. But if you're caught up in martial fuckery, you've really allowed yourself no time for that. So what I'm trying to get at is we really had to divide the two. So there's martial and there's survival. Let's call it the combatives. And the way I explain it to people now, so what do you want out of your training? You want to learn martial arts? Okay, awesome. My base art for the last 22 years is Tai Chi, and I prefer it, and I do it every day, every night, and sometimes in the mornings, but mostly at night. And but that's not for everyone else. It's just my personal preference. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to go on the martial side, we've got our Southeast Asian arts, Silat, all that sort of stuff, Kun Tao, internal Kun Tao, and Tai Chi. But if you want to learn how to protect yourself, well, there's some things. We just put out a free course actually as part of this new marketing campaign, and it's in 3 phases. The first one is situational and spatial awareness, so awareness, creating, developing, and maintaining skills that are going to avoid and prevent you from getting yourself into a high risk situation or encounter. And but you actually have to implement them into your lifestyle. You can't just, I work with a lot of officers who are probably the worst, as everyone says, because they come and they do their yearly or biannually shoots, and then that's it. You know what I mean? No other fucking training. And they're like, "Well, I've got my sidearm. What the fuck are you going to do?" I'm like, "Well, bro, I'll show you." There's footage of me on YouTube coming up to my guys in Brazil with a knife to the neck, and they go, "Oh, filha da puta." Like, it's like, because I'm there, like, I was testing their scan, and they're going, "Fuck," and there was all sorts of jokes come from that. But the point is that it annoyed me actually one time. I was working with guys from Jota in Sao Paulo, and they were being targeted. There was, what are they, 40-something cops were shot in like 1 week, and they went out and they just started shooting these police brutality down there, bro. Fuck. Those guys, a lot of them are just thugs. I saw one guy at my birthday party. This is in probably 2011 or 2012. It's just before or after I'd seen TJ. Pistol whip another dude across the table. He come up and started talking. This guy owned, I think it was 2 strip clubs, and he was out with us the whole week. And he was fucking mentally pulled out a revolver and pistol whipped this fucking guy. And it was just like, what the fuck, man? Just mental. It is another world down there. And they are cowboys and they're awesome people, great mates, have your back and everything. But the thing that was doing my head in, the original point of this was, we'd be out in the mornings on the way to where we're going, for example. They'd stand there with a cigarette and coffee. And one of the concepts that I was trying to implement to them, and I said, for me, I don't want to have my hands busy, regardless of what I do or don't have on me, what tools I may or may not have to rely on. It could be a fucking pen, it could be a torch, you call it a flashlight, or whatever the fuck it's going to be. I need my options. So if I'm going to stand there with 2 hands busy, one with a cigarette and one a coffee, especially when you guys are being targeted, a lot of your colleagues are being fucking shot on the job. Why? you are setting yourself up for failure, and you are an easy target. You're a sitting duck, and who am I to tell you how to do your job? I'm not anyone. We all understand that, but there's common sense. And you know what I mean? Like you're under imminent threat right now. What the fuck are you doing? So things like that would sort of get to me. But the 3-phase thing that I was just talking about was the awareness, communication, and then what if you have to get physical, last resort options. And then, are you willing to live with the consequences of your actions? You never want to make a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion, do you? I'm fucked off at this cunt, so I'm going to punch him in the throat. Krav Maga taught me to kick him in the balls and punch him in the throat because he pushed you. Is that reasonable, necessary, and justifiable? So as I said, man, like I'm nothing special to anyone, but I've had experience working with people in that realm that I feel that most average Joes are going to find themselves in, but had to do it in a professional way. And I've educated and trained myself through different courses and traveling. And when I'm training a group, for example, in Brazil, when I was talking about the counter-terrorist training facility, I would get in on as many courses as I can on that place and other places alike. So all these things that say nice bits of whatever about me on a piece of paper, fuck, they're only worth the paper that they're printed on, unless you can apply those things into your everyday life and have that not just skill set but awareness. The NRA, when I was teaching for the NRA, was knowledge, skills, and attitude. You need to have a proactive attitude that's also pro security, health, and safety. You know what I mean? If you just know the techniques, what I was saying about shooters, they'd be like, bang, bang, come back and do this to show that they were scanning. But I'd be standing behind them and I'd be putting up a finger or taking something out or doing something to fuck with them. And then 2 or 3 drills later, I'd say, hey, 2 drills ago, what was I doing behind you? Who was I talking to? How many fingers was I holding up? I passed a knife to one of the other guys. So I said, so who's got the blade now? You guys are fucking officers in one of the most dangerous places in the world right now, and you need to be on this ship. But right now, you're only considering the drill. You're only practicing the drill. You're working with the confinements of the drill. The drill is a skill builder. You do not fight with a fucking drill. You fight with the skills that you've obtained, acquired, and hopefully, like I said, that process of creation, development, and maintenance of those perishable skills. Why the fuck wouldn't you consider this a good time to apply yourself as best as you can, but also understand that you can afford to fuck it up here. You can't afford to fuck it up out there. So let's identify those deficiencies and work on them. Now, obviously that little rant of mine just now, it doesn't sound like your average bouncer or someone that's worked, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Fucking, like working boards and just being a cunt and just thinking that you're the head of the town or whatever, and everyone will kiss your ass to get into a door. There's more to the job than that. But through education and training, being in the field of education training, I've just made it my goal to understand that whatever I present to people on my courses, end users, whatever you want to call them, have to understand if they're buying into this to the point where they're coming and learn with us for example, it needs to be something that they implement into their daily life. Otherwise it's fucking pointless. Do you know what I mean? It really is pointless.
Yeah, I do. And I think that that's so on point that you say that, man. And, you talk, Luke, about I'm not anything, I'm not this. I had a buddy that I was training with in Israel, Green Beret, and he used to tell me, you don't become it, it becomes you. And I think that that's really a poignant thing to mention right now, is because, yes, you started off doing bouncing, obviously martial arts before that, traditional, and you found out quickly that all of this, trapping and, cha-cha-cha stuff, and you just hit the guy in the face, and that may be better. Same thing, I think, with the tactical aspect of all of this, is that you went from the bouncer and you learned so much about this stuff, and it really says enormous things about a person's character. And I'm not specifically speaking about you, but I'm speaking about all warriors out there. I think we all realize that you have to keep learning. You can't ever get trapped in that attitude. I know. You have to always keep learning. And I think that you really speak volumes to that when you tell us these stories about all over the world, teaching guys, don't get trapped in the perimeter of this drill. Keep learning.
Yeah, fucking oath. It is hard to work with some guys who have been programmed to do what they're told and only work within the confinements of what they know. I have worked with guys, and probably still some of them I'm still working with, but I have been a little bit of a, I'm not trying to take credit for any of their gains or anything, because it is up to them to make those decisions and take action. But I've tried to positively influence them in terms of being a little bit more fucking relaxed and open-minded, and you know, one of my guys who's actually working close protection now, he manages a group, one of the biggest, not biggest groups, but one of the most, they work for some of the richest families, there's only a couple of them in Europe, right? And he's former, I won't say which country, but special forces, and he contracted on the Gaza Strip for a while there. I think just after he got out of service in, I nearly said his country again. But anyway, he was over here for our gathering, our 10-year anniversary. I've traveled with him a lot throughout Europe. He's one of my very good mates, so he come and stay with me. And he walks in the room like this and everything, and you can just pick that he's that type of guy, or in that type of role, or from that type of background. And we like to chill here on the sunny coast in Australia. If you're sitting out the back of my place having a barbie at night, as we often do, I've had fires nearly every fucking night. Most people are chuffing away, you know, with massive lifters and whatever. So the whole fucking neighborhood, everyone's just, you know, blazing away. And so he's here and he goes, "Oh, I won't do his accent because then you fucking know." He goes, "Oh, I haven't had this since I was a teenager." I go, "You want some, bro? I've got a prescription. I'm you know, because my head here, this thing, I've got brain damage and all sorts of issues from an accident. So I actually spoke to my weed doctor yesterday, and I said, this is fully, you know, it's legal, it's regulated, it's great stuff, and it's part of my pain management and everything." And I said, do you want to try something? He goes, "Oh, well, yeah, it's not illegal." I said, "No, not really anywhere now. So unless we're talking about Middle East and, you know, in parts of Asia and everything, which is actually changing too." But anyway, he had it, and it's like there was a massive shift in his demeanor, and it was like a reset button, because I was actually kind of against it for a while there too. And then when I was addicted to these opioids, these prescription drugs that had me on, and I had all these really horrible side effects, just long story boring. As soon as I had that, it all went away, and I've slept for the first time in 5 weeks, and it was like life-changing. So I have seen positive benefits of guys that I'm working with who are so fucking strung out, even just using CBD of a morning, you know, and getting on a different sort of trajectory, a different sort of, they have more clarity. Their mental sort of state is just, I think they work at a better capacity. I know I do. I know I definitely do. And I think it's helped a lot of them, but I can't remember how the fuck we got on this. So.
About how Australians just like to chill, man. And hell yeah, bro. Honestly, dude, I'm all for it, man. I don't currently smoke myself just due to the job and everything, but at the same time, dude, I think it's a miracle worker, man. And I've seen the same thing in guys, is that I know the type of guy you're talking about, and it's like a paradigm shift. And they smoke a little bit, and it's like, it's like they take a deep breath or something. It's a holy weed, in my opinion, man. But that's just me. Yeah.
It's as if they haven't slept properly in a week, and that was me last week. As I think I was saying to you on Instagram and that. I hadn't had time to sleep that whole week, and I know that you get fucked off easily, and you get agitated, and you're kind of like really on edge and all that sort of thing, more so than normal. And it's as if they'd had the first bit of sleep and a couple of good days of rest and recovery for the first time in ages, and they're just different people, you know? And I think that's such a positive thing, man, for everyone. I'm not trying to promote any sort of drug or anything like that, but if you can use it, as my doctor was saying yesterday, through education, if you can use it and not misuse it, and have balance and all things in moderation, of course, it can really be beneficial. So, yeah, but everyone in Oz, man, everyone's just so fucking chilled here. Like, you know, he was able to come out and just chill. I'm surrounded by the most beautiful beach in the fucking world. There's whales and dolphins out there now, as I said. And so I'm down there every day, every morning, and most afternoons. And all around me here's all waterfalls and national parks and all that rainforest, tropical. So it's fucking incredible. So when they come out here, they're like, "Fuck, man, we don't want to go home."
Yeah.
You know?
I don't blame you at all, man. It sounds like a freaking paradise out there, dude.
It is. It takes you a while to be away from it to understand and appreciate it. I spent most of my adult life in Japan, which is really weird. For the first part, back and forth, but then I ended up missing this place. I worked for a couple of years. I was just telling this to the client last night. For 18 months before I came for you, for 18 months, I was in a different city every 3 days, 3 to 4 days. Yeah. Different city. Mental. But you do what you got to do so you can do what you want to do. What's that, sorry?
So that's gotta take a real toll on you. Being in a different place every 3 days, like for 18 months straight, man.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can only imagine.
It definitely is, and it can take its toll on your family and everything. I try to keep that balance, obviously, and I do a lot with my kid. I'm very involved and take her out bush and take her to the beach and do a lot of stuff with her. But still, if I could chase fame or fatherhood, it would be fatherhood. I would prefer to be, as I was talking about with TJ, I would rather be a good dad than a good businessman. But to support the family, you need to have good business. So, I started in my 20s and I thought, fuck, I've got to make something of myself. I've got to build a foundation so that I can have a positive, productive, whatever future, so that the girls can appreciate it later, hopefully. But I guess it's worked out. I don't know, whatever. We're still here.
That's what counts. To your
Sorry,
point,
man, I missed you there. Sorry.
good. So to your point, what I was saying is that I think, especially having guys, and you mentioned TJ over at Kennedy Tactical, freaking stand-up guy, man. Having him as a buddy, like, they only make your life easier. And whenever you need them, they're going to be around you. Having guys like that in your circle, I think, is so essential, man. And I think for you especially, dude, because you have achieved a certain level of fame in your time, man. And, you're still a young guy, but you're well known in the combatives community. How do you...
Weird. I'm known as just that cunt. Someone said it the other day. They go, "You're that cunt with a knife." And I said, "That's exactly right. You'll get a green card to Australia."
Okay, so let me ask you this: how does it feel to be that cunt with the knife on YouTube? And
sorry, what? How does it feel to what?
How does that feel to be that guy with the knife on YouTube and kind of everywhere these days? Like, having a well-known public personality, man, like, it's got to be a weird feeling. You've got to have striking a balance there between your personal life, your public life. How does that work for you?
I think, look, to be honest with you, here it's as I said to you, I'm just everyone knows me here as Jack. My neighbours, I get along really well with my neighbours. I'm just Jack that has a couple of shops in Japan, and that's true. Everyone's on a need-to-know basis for reasons that you're well aware of, obviously. But I don't like being in the spotlight. I think it's a habit from working. One of my main roles for a client in Japan. I was with a client for a long time. Probably near a year, and I was low profile, so I was pretending to be his buddy, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? Shadowing him, but also hanging out and all this sort of thing. I'd be drinking fake drinks or non-alcoholic drinks and blending in and all that sort of thing. So I did that for a long time. And also doing little bits of PI work. It sort of puts you in a mindset of, and this is a really good point, man. How I was telling you about that, just touching on that sort of drama that my daughter got involved in, because her friends' parents know me as Jack. They're not going to go on the internet and start talking about this and try and tarnish my name, as a bunch of people have. And that's fine. Go ahead and do it. That's all part of the process. You have to be able to live with that. And you have to be able to look over it, not put yourself above anyone. I'm not saying that, but you have to be able to just go, well, fuck, that's their opinion, cool, whatever. Not everyone's going to like you. That client that I'm talking about, actually, he got out of the underworld in Japan, and he said to me, "You're starting to catch traction." So here in Oz, like I said, most people around here just know me as Jack, and that's how I want it. That's how I really, really prefer it. I want my privacy. I want to be able to hang out with my girls. I want to just be able to go to the beach. I want to be able to blaze and fucking hang out and do whatever, right? And that's just me. That's what I personally prefer. In Japan, I can't walk down the street even because Omiya, where I've been based for so long, is a hub for martial arts. Ensign lives there. He lives fucking 2 kilometers from my house, 2 point something kilometers. His house is down the fucking road near Iwatsuki, 2 stops away. And it's like, for example, this retargeting thing we're about to do, we've got 1.1 million profiles that we're retargeting through from our page in Japan. I put out my 4th book there. I've been in a couple of movies and TV shows, and you get recognized because I'm this fucking 6'5" gorilla walking around, and you just stand out. So I can't sort of blend in. So I'll be walking through the train station. Even last time I was with my daughter there last year, and people will come up to us and they'll ask her to take a photo of me and them, and it's kind of like, I obviously I appreciate it so much, and it's so humbling. I can't ever complain, because without those sort of people, I wouldn't have the support to support my family. So how could I ever not appreciate that? But at the same time, I don't like to be in the spotlight. I'm not nervous or shy or anything. I just don't particularly think that I'm anything special or I deserve any sort of special treatment. It is kind of strange when I go to places like when I was going to Fukuoka for a while there. I'd get this royal treatment, or a bunch of places like Mexico, for example, in Mexico City, and fuck, a bunch of places, and it's just like, I think the best compliment people have given me is, you're just a regular guy, and I'm like, fucking oath, let's hang, let's go do this, that, whatever, like that's mad, like it's fucking, and it's really weird because I end up getting on a very good basis with people quite quickly if we're on the same mindset, and we're on the same page, and they're not full of themselves and they don't take themselves too seriously. We end up getting along really well. But to have that balance in Japan's very hard, and that's why I sort of appreciate being based more here now. When I go back there, I have to have my own personal security sort of preventative and countermeasures in place, and down to routine, where I'm staying, what I'm wearing, where I'm going, what time, all that. Here I can be a lot more relaxed, but there's shit kicks off here a lot more often. Serious shit kicks off here, I was just talking about the other night. I came home. There's two guys in my window watching. I think I was talking to TJ about this, but it might have been too vague to continue with the proper story of it. I don't know. I come home. I was walking the dogs, just going around the block. I come back, and there's a driveway here, and there's my driveway, and there's two guys either side of that driveway. So there's four of them, and this is right in the middle of this whole COVID fuckery, right? So no one's supposed to be congregating. Everyone's supposed to be at home, shelter in place, all that sort of stuff. And the cops were out, on patrols and trying to patrol these things. But I live in a very quieter part away from the city, just where I want to be, and it's a quiet area. So what comes with that is these little young cunts getting out on the street because they've got nowhere else to go. They just want to walk around getting pissed and just, whatever. Just young and stupid like we all were once. And so anyway, I come home and I see four guys sort of here and here on the next driveway, which is right next to my place, and then two guys in my fucking window, my front window, looking at my missus on the phone. And they're on the phone to someone, and my missus is inside cooking dinner. And I've gone, what the fuck? And they didn't. So I've walked past these four guys just as if I've got nothing to do with it. I just kind of ignored them. I looked at them, and I'm looking at them like the look you always give younger people who are a little bit, how do I put this without sounding like a fucking cockhead? You need to let people know where they stand with you. Do you know what I mean? You need to let people know that you're not a pushover. You need to let people know, like, hey, don't fuck with me. Besides these 130 pound, 140 pound, whatever they are, Rottweilers that will tear you a new asshole before I get to you, don't fuck with me. And that's that sort of look. I'll be like, hey, how are you? It's like, I'll say, how are you? But it's really saying, fucking look out, cunt. That's the sort of vibe that you have to give these young cunts. Because here, man, they don't understand, and I know it's the same there for a lot of places, they don't understand consequences. They're entitled, and they think they can walk all over people. We've had guys in groups breaking into places around here, and they were on the news. I shared this on the Facebook page, and they were interviewed. They had their mask on or whatever. And they go, you guys are just breaking and stealing cars and doing 200 Ks down the road, fucking, just joyriding, breaking into places. And they go, why the fuck are you doing this? And they said, because we know, even if we get caught, we won't go to jail, and we'll get a slap on the wrist and we'll be out the next day. And so this is a thing around here. So that's why I look at them like, what the fuck's going on, But anyway, I kept walking past them because I thought, I'm not going to stand in between six dudes, right? Two here on either side of the driveway next door. And I thought maybe they're the young fella over there, his mates, but I hadn't seen him before. And I always go out because I always have to tell people to fuck off because they'll be partying over there. And at 1 a.m., my dogs are going off. And I'll go out there and go, guys, you need to leave. And they're like, oh, why are we loud? I said, it's 1 a.m. on a Wednesday night. Yes, you need to fuck off, please. And they go, okay. Sorry, they're just drunk and they're just not aware, right? But I'm always usually pretty friendly to people. So I walk up to these guys. I was on the phone to my mentor at the time. I go, just give me 1 second, man.
Yeah.
And I said, just give me 1 second, like that. And I go, what did I say to him? Can I help you? Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, straight, like in their face. And, were you looking for me? And they're like, oh, they're looking at me. They're looking at the dogs. They're looking at me. They're looking around like, oh, fuck. And they looked really confused. So I had that element of surprise, I guess. And they've just, shat themselves. And, going, fuck. Oh, no, man. Fuck. Sorry. No, bro, we thought our mate lived here. And I go, well, I live here. What's up? Like I've been here for a year, whatever it was, whatever I said. And they go, oh, fuck, no, we're just trying to call our mate. We thought he lived here. Well, he doesn't. I live here. If anyone else comes looking, tell them who they're going to find. What's up? Like this and like, oh, no, bro, we're sorry, we're gonna leave. Oh fuck, we didn't mean it. We're really sorry. Okay, off you fuck. You know, like, I'm like, you gotta let people know where they stand. You got to train people in how to treat you. If I went up and they, oh, excuse me, you know, and my mentor was saying this too. He goes, oh, you handled that well, mate, didn't you? I said, well, yeah, I wasn't gonna walk up and fucking tackle him or hit it because my dogs would attack him as well. I had an incident with that down the beach. My dog will it will turn them on, and yeah. Anyway, so I went up to him first, used communication, positioned myself strategically so that I was in between six of them, and I've got the two dogs with me. So that, you know, I had the position of advantage, I guess. And as soon as they said, you know, they were sort of startled and surprised and said, oh, we're just looking for our mate. Sorry, fuck, like this. Well, yeah, no worries. Okay, well, fuck, off you fuck then. You know, like this, and let them know, like, this guy, Jack, who lives at this house, isn't to be fucked with. You know what I mean? So my mate over here, he's had his car broken into twice in 2 weeks. Then he found two dudes in his yard. And then old mate here had his car broken into as well. And then next door was broken into. This guy's, I won't say what he is, but there's a reason he doesn't get broken into. And same here. I got a brand new car sitting out the front that I think a lot of people would love to go and take for a joyride. No one fucks with it. You know, I'm up pretty late at night anyway, and my dogs are sitting right there, and it's well lit and everything, and I've got a lot of, you know, security things in place, but our place never gets fucked with. But if you find yourself in that situation, I think you'll either go down two paths. You know, you'll be, oh fuck, what do I do? Or some people sort of overreact as well, if you know what I mean. So it's about acting accordingly. I can't remember how the fuck we got on this.
But, well, but you're giving out some good information, some solid intelligence, so to speak. And
I feel bad about ranting. Sorry,
man. I wouldn't have had you on the podcast if I didn't want to get you to talk and, you know, get some information from you, man. So I appreciate it.
I might not have answered your question. You could just ask me again.
I don't remember what it is. Maybe it's I used to party a little bit too, but you know. Oh, good,
man. I think you're talking about dealing with whatever and life and privacy, and that's kind of, yeah, I guess that. But we just did a show last year, the second TV show, and we did 4 months on the road, and we did 8 countries. And I actually set and broke the world record at the UFC Performance Institute, and that's something that no one knows about. We haven't gone out publicly with that yet, and yeah, fuck, it's quite big news. You know, it's a big thing for us. It's bragging rights, but I've shut up about it for the past year and a bit, simply because that needs to be part of the show. We're in post-production now. It came to a halt for a good 6 months there, but even most of these docu-series or whatever you see on Netflix take up to a couple of years. Even movies can take a couple of years in post-production. So I've just been really quiet about it, and it is a big deal. It was a decent sized budget. We had a crew, went all around the world, as I said, and it was really good. But, you know, I treat my crew like my mates, and I'm that friend that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, because I've worked with too many people in TV that they base everything off. It's all piss and wind. It's just promises of, oh, if you do this, we could get you there, and when the show sells, we'll get. It's all just fuckery. I've seen that in London and LA, and you know, with this one, I had my own crew. I had Joaquim come with me, who's from Combat Montreal, the head of training and development for North America, and we have traveled together pretty constantly for the last 10 years, and we're on the same page on everything. It's like, I don't need to ask him about any, you know, if I'm thinking something, I know he is too. I'll look at him, he's like, let's fucking do it. And we already know each other. It's weird, man, but we've worked together a lot. So I have a crew that I can trust. And as I said, we went through so many countries all throughout Asia, the States and the UK, including Hawaii. And it was really good. But we had our gatherings as well. We had people come to our Vegas branch. We had people come to our Honolulu branch. We had guys come to our New Jersey branch. And I think that's all we did in the States. Did we do a bit in LA? No, we're at CSW in LA, that's right. And LAPD. We had a thing with the LAPD. So it's quite interesting that it's coming out. So things may change. You know, I may have to relocate a little bit or not, you know, because my neighbors will see Netflix and whatever. Providing it does go through to that, there's no guarantees of anything. There's death and taxes is about that. It's about it, right? But if things go to plan and go well, it should be available to the masses, hopefully within the next 12 months. But for me, it's just more about my own privacy and personal security. I have my girls here that need to have a semi-normal life, and I need to protect their own privacy as well, because I'm not always around, you know.
Yeah, and I
So
think that that's really crucial. What you're saying there is that you really want to live that gray man lifestyle while you can.
yes.
Um, and I think that that's a great idea, especially for your girls, like you're saying, because
Mm-hmm.
it can probably be a little hectic, especially if you go back over to Japan, and especially the more popular and the more you blow up, basically, man, it's only going to get worse from here. I hate to break it to you, but
It is, yeah.
yeah, and enjoy it while it lasts, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
honestly think that a guy, I'm just going to say it, man, like a guy like you're not always going to have that level of anonymity, and you're just going
What's
to,
that mean? Anonymity?
like the gray man, like you're not always going to be able to
Right,
play.
right, 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 right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really think that a guy like you, like, I get it. You have been in the security industry and around, all of this secret squirrel stuff for so long that it's ingrained. But at some point, man, you're going to have to just give it up and realize, like, okay, like, I'm a public figure now. Like, so enjoy it while
It,
it
it,
lasts.
it, yeah, it could become that. My missus is a very successful model in Japan. So Boss Coffee. They've come out here in Australia. Suntory, they had Tommy Lee. That's that dyslexia kicking in. Fucking Tommy Lee Jones is on a lot of their billboards and stuff throughout Tokyo and anywhere you go really, and on their ads. And she's actually the first face that pops up on their latest ad, the commercial. And she's on a bunch of billboards. We were coming home from the sticks. This is back in her city, not that long ago, and we come back through the train station, and her face is on this massive fucking billboard. I'm just trying to find the photo for you. And I don't care about showing her face publicly or whatever, because she's so out there. You go to an ATM and she pops up. She's on this ad for Fukuoka Bank of Fukuoka. So just to your point, this is all I'm trying to say, is that you have to work within the constraints of what you're sort of dealing with, the situation obviously, and what it entails. So this is us coming back on the, that's her, and that's at the train station where her face. I don't know if you can see that billboard there.
Oh,
Yeah, she looks a little bit different there. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Right, crystal clear.
Yeah. So
oh shit.
So that's, yeah. So she's her face is everywhere, and people recognize her, and they recognize me, and then they see us together, and it's like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It's like, it's strange.
It's be a different level, man. Like, so in Japan, what drew you to Japan? I mean, obviously the martial arts and everything, but it's a different culture out there. How do you survive out there and thrive and live? And what made you decide to go over out that way?
I worked, so I lived with my kendo, and we're doing bits of EI as well back 03, 04, whatever it was, and I was learning Japanese that way. I did have a girlfriend in like 02 or something like that was Japanese, and I picked it up. I'd already spoken Tagalog and Chinese before that, so it was kind of just like another language that I was interested in. Always interested in Japan, but not to the level of like a lot of other guys where you go in the house and it's always Asian fusion type thing. I was at a house yesterday, and I said to the guy, "Are you Buddhist?" And he goes, No, we're just very spiritual because Buddha heads everywhere." And he goes, "Why is that?" And I said, "Oh, because I am. I just thought maybe you guys were too, but that's fine." Cool, awesome, man. Funnily enough, when you go to some place in Japan, especially what they call like wedding ceremony type places, they're decked out like a castle or a cathedral more so. Some are like a castle, and they're covered in like Christianity stuff, and they don't understand the meaning of what's going on or whatever. And they'll pay a white dude to come out. I've met a British dude, another Aussie guy, and I know of other American dudes that will read the Bible in Japanese. They don't speak Japanese. They have to look at it phonetically. And I've been to a wedding that was like this. Is actually my former sister-in-law's wedding, and it was fucking hilarious. We're all sitting there giggling because I understand it. I speak it and everything, right? And I'm sitting there listening to it, and it was just the funniest shit. It was like someone coming from Japan and never having learned a lick of English and trying to read something in English and just fucking it all up. You think it's quite funny, no offense to it, but it's just cute. And so I learned it before I went out there. I worked, I was, getting into security back around that time as well, obviously. So I was working with a group, let's say, that were out here in Australia. I was partnered with one of my mates who I lived with on and off, a Korean fella, for 4 years. And we had some business things going on. So I ended up working with this Japanese crew from Osaka. So I learned Osakan first. My dialect was really weird when I first got over there. I was speaking Japanese and people go, "Oh, you speak Osakan?" I'm like, "What the fuck's that?" I didn't really know the difference. So it was like speaking Glaswegian Scottish compared to American English. It's very different. My missus now, we actually speak Hakataben, which is like the Fukuoka dialect, and very different. Very slang's different. The words of the sentence, so much is very different. I was surprised my daughter could pick it up, but she could, so it's good. And so what drew me over there, I guess, it's a little bit hard to go into depth because it involves the ex-wife and everything, but she and my daughter were there, and I was in Taiwan for a bit. She got sick and then I went over there. I was originally supposed to go to Taiwan. That was the plan. That didn't work out. I ended up in Japan. I thought, well, fuck. I'd stood away from the martial arts thing in Australia because I had some things that went down with students and partners and all these sort of things that I was so disheartened by. I couldn't believe what they'd done and what they'd said about me and what they'd sort of the story they'd tried to spin, all this sort of shit. And I just went, you know what, fuck it all, fuck martial arts, fuck everything, and I'll just be in Japan, you know. So I was there 4 days, and I walked into a nightclub and I said, "You guys need me to work here?" And they said, "Why?" I said, "Because look at the fucking state of this place. There's no security." Through that, I met a guy locally that was coming to hang out there and whatever, and he was talking to me. He goes, "Fuck, you're really on it. You've changed this place. You're training all the staff. You've got other security staff that you've trained and put in place and all this sort of thing." And then that was on the 4th floor, and then I took over the 4th and 5th floor. 2nd floor was a delivery health service, which is prostitution ring, and so I had nothing to do with that. 3rd floor, sorry, above that was a Colombian nightclub that I was running as well, in terms of their security and training their staff, just in general, just how to not put yourself in a bad position. And then the 1st floor was a Nigerian bar as well, so who I'm still really good mates with, Kerry, actually. So I see him, talk to him all the time. So I sort of integrated myself or immersed myself that way into what we'd call the Mizushōbai, is like the nightlife or red light, just in the red light district sort of thing. So I found myself rubbing shoulders with people in the underworld that I didn't want to, but sort of had to, because you're in that sort of scene, if you get what I mean. So I wasn't teaching English or anything like that. So I only, you know, I could only use Japanese, and that was to my advantage to maintain it, I guess, and get better. And then through that guy I mentioned who's working security in Tokyo, he got to talking to his boss, who's Ise, who owns Bonds and who's under Ensen Inoue, and have their own fight team and all that. They've got Crazy Bee now. I think they were just on Vice or something like that. I don't know. And started working with them, started teaching those guys how to just not be thugs on the door. Not that I'm saying anything against them, but they thought that if they knew MMA, that they could stop fights on the door. And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. And they're like, well, show us. And then I did a few close protection gigs with them, and then got involved with another company that sort of not scouted me, but I can't remember how the fuck I got involved with him. That guy that got me into that. But he ended up coming to train with us. I was just training my staff. That's all I was doing. We're training in the nightclub. There's videos of that from like 10, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, whatever it was. And I have no idea, man. I had guys rock up from Denmark and Canada and Australia and fuck all over the place to come and train with me in Japan. I wasn't even charging anyone in the beginning because I was just doing what I was doing. I was just sharing. I was very anti-political fuckery and business and all that. And then when they asked me to go out to Europe and the States and all these other places to share what I do, and I was like, well, I guess, but we just needed to figure out, you know, so I wasn't going out there at a loss. And then things just sort of developed from there. But Japan, yeah, I guess that's how I got there and how that started. So, yeah.
It's a fascinating story, man. You have really run the gamut in like your life so far. I mean, you've had a lot of experiences. Where do you want to go from here? I mean, obviously you've got a lot of big things happening right now. You've kind of, like it or not, man, you're going to be a lot bigger than you are now. But besides for all the fame and, you know, all of that, like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to just sit on the beach and chill with your, or like, do you want?
Yeah. I want the infrastructure for my staff and my guys who are involved. We have 2 things in the process. I have 5 businesses that I own and operate. So one of them is this, and So the amount of staff that I work with on a day-to-day basis, and funnily enough, most of it is in Japanese, believe it or not. So we've got this office here and then the other one over there, and that one's all in Japanese and everything's done there with our sort of team there. So what I'm saying is, what I want from that is the ability to be able to delegate roles and work, I guess, a little bit more, so that I'm not spreading myself so thin. Excuse me. And I just want my staff to be able to not just be rewarded, but I guess set themselves up so that I've got one staff member now where I'm actually investing in him and helping him get passive income, because while he's younger now, he's only in his 20s. I think this is the time where I said, don't get married, don't have kids, go travel, get your life experiences, do all this, right? I was telling TJ about this as well, but set yourself up for success now. If you're going to try and do what I did and be a parent at the same time as hustling, 3 jobs and not sleeping and just fucking, insane. I guess it's work ethic, but just what was required to get to where I am now, to whatever degree that is. I guess I live comfortably now. I guess that, and all I mean by that is I'm not really worried about how I'm going to feed myself or pay the rent. So I guess that's comfortable. I'm not saying I'm driving like mad cars or doing stupid. I don't even buy new clothes. I don't know when I bought new clothes last time. I'm not that sort of person. But my point is that success for me is just setting things up so that less is more. So you're doing less and you're I guess making more is not really what I'm trying to say in terms of financial gain, but that is important because that's that currency that allows us to do things. And financial freedom is not something that I have by any means, because I'm supporting staff. I'm paying rent at my headquarters now in Japan with no income whatsoever. We can't take gym memberships now. It wouldn't be fair. But the work that I've done and the investments that I've made up until this point, although they're not massive, I'm not saying by any means at all, they're not massive, but they've allowed me to live how I live now, and also support other staff and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to keep building my assets, both on a personal level and business level, so that we have the infrastructure. We're actually teamed with a production company here locally now. And, we've got 2,000 videos on the site with the online learning and everything. We're looking to redo all of those in a very cinematic sort of way with 4 cameras and all this other sort of shit. And, other people take over that process. So all I have to do is walk in, talk to the camera and fuck off. I don't want to be involved in anything else. I want time with my girls, and I want time to have the mental space for creativity so that I can be the driving force behind this. I have a couple of other businesses. One's in technology that's actually fucking insane. And then another one's, I don't know if I can talk about it yet, but it involves some famous people, and it's the next biggest thing here in Australia, I think. And I think it's going to do well. So I want to see them do well. And, but it's about not spreading yourself too thin. You have 24 hours in a day, and you have only so much time, energy, and effort. And where are you going to put that time, energy, and effort? Where are you going to invest your time, even your time in terms of the mental energy that I don't know if that's the right word, but what you put in, how long you think about things. So for example, I like to take big detoxes off social media. I don't have any notifications on my phone. I don't sit there on Facebook or anything. I don't look at YouTube comments or that really at all. I just don't. I don't have time to worry about what other people think or their opinion, because a lot of time they're trying to chase some sort of, they've got a narrative where they're trying to chase attention or do that whole, virtue signaling type thing as well. So for me, I just think that to be successful, to get to where I want to be, I have to focus on my own shit, and that's what's most important. That's why I don't mean any offense that I hadn't watched your videos or TJ's videos or anyone else's videos. It's not that I don't like or respect them. I do. I think that they have their place, and I think that anyone else doing the same thing is only adding to that positivity. It's awesome, because there needs to be more people out there fucking sharing proper, functional, realistic, no nonsense, all bullshit aside, concepts in whatever it is. And different people will suit different people, you know what I mean? Like some people might not like my accent or whatever the fuck, or the fact that I don't mind my P's and Q's. They don't understand that here in Australia and the UK, where I was also based for a bit on and off, to call each other cunt, this and that is a term of endearment. My mum will call me that. How are you, cunt? What's going on? Like, it's so fucking normal, and you don't mean anything by it. It's the intent behind the term or the word that you're using. It's not the word itself. And if you're that fucking sensitive, then why are you on the internet? You know what I mean? It's like the people that are addicted to drama. It's like they're looking for something to be offended by. Well, go fuck yourself. How's that? There's one. Hold that. You know, like it's just you don't have time to really care about the opinions of others. I had someone that has become very well known, very famous on YouTube and in the industry, and he tagged me in something, and then I didn't respond to it. I just saw he tagged me in something. So I went, yeah, cool. I didn't even read it. And then he messaged me. He goes, "Hey man, you're in this post." I went, "So?" And he goes, "Don't you want to respond to it?" I went, "Fuck, I'm gonna waste my time. I'm hanging out with my kid." No, you know, like no. And he goes, "Well, you know, don't you think you should be open to peer-reviewed so and such?" And no, let them talk about it. Even if they say I'm a fucking idiot or I'm totally wrong, that's their opinion, man. That's not fact. Anyone that thinks their opinion is fact is a fucking narcissist and not going to go very far. Some guys have caught traction in the industry because they've had, let's say, good production, good marketing, or they've become viral for whatever reason. A lot of the guys that become viral, people are just, everyone loves to hate someone, right? So a couple of those guys that became viral got so much hate because people go, well, that's flashy, but there's a lot of fuckery there. So I was like, you know, when this person was talking about working with me, I went, if that does or doesn't work, I'm fine either way, because I know what can come of it. Do you know what I mean? It can go either fucking way. I've worked with people that are so polite and respectful and professional in front of the camera, and they're the worst fucking human beings I could possibly think of. The way they will treat people, especially women, and fuck. If you can't practice what you preach, and you're doing the exact opposite, if you say, I hate so-and-so sort of people because they'll do this to weaker people, for example, and they're doing that, fuck, man. I'm just like, best of luck to you. You know what I mean? Like, and people are like, wow, that guy's, or this person's so professional, so look at him, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm that cunt that will be the same with you as I am now to the show. I was exactly the same. I'm just saying what I want without any bad intentions towards anybody. Everyone has the same amount of respect. The guy who's sweeping the floor to the guy who owns the gym to the guy who, you know, Forrest Griffin at UFC Performance Institute, I just talked to him like another mate, and that was it. And I think that's why we got along, and it was just, yeah, come here, check this out, man, yeah, fucking, and guys are sitting there starry-eyed like this, and I'm like, he's another fucking dude, you know what I mean? He's applied himself in his craft, his art and craft, to such a degree, and showed that focus and determination, perseverance, and all that. That's got him to that level, and that's awesome. But you might talk to a guy that's I don't know, an investor or a property fucking mongol or whatever, and within their own realm, their own industry, they deserve the same amount of respect. Why wouldn't they? Why? Because they're more famous in something that's considered badass. I think something that's pretty badass is having a lot of assets, not a lot of liabilities, and treating everyone with common decency and respect. You know, I know some guys from TV that are fucking assholes that I've traveled with, and they will talk like shit to a waiter or a waitress, whatever you're supposed to call them now. And I just think, I can't fucking work with this guy. I look at how people act, and I look at how people treat others, and I gauge them as a person. I do judge them as a person on that, and I sort of gauge how far I'm willing to work with that person based on how they treat others, you know? So
that's an interesting topic that you just were bringing up is, you know, I've had some big names on here, and I've always found the biggest guys out there in the martial community, tactical community, to be honestly the most open and the most nicest guys. If that makes it most nicest, whatever. And
likewise, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like guys who, like, you've experienced quite a large amount of success in the martial community. Other names out there, I reach out to them. I say, hey, you know, do you want to come on the pod? Say, oh, sure, bro. Like, yo, thanks for having me, dude. Like, awesome. And then I reach out to other guys out there who, you know, I won't bring up any names, but they're not that big, and maybe they want to become big, but they only want to talk about, like, my company, my company, my company, and they're fucking assholes. And, and it's difficult to get them on. They think they're like Superman. It's so funny that the biggest names out there are usually the most open because you got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
With that
I
being
like that. Yeah.
the negativity out there. And I know because, I've experienced it on a very minimal level, but a guy with, with your level out there, you've got to experience it 10 times more. How do you deal with
I don't.
that?
I just don't. I don't. Honestly, I don't give a fuck.
You just look the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's someone's opinion, and that person's probably hurting. They're lashing out. They've got a shit life or a shit job or a shit relationship with their missus or whatever. They probably had shit parents, and they don't understand. They don't have the tools to have emotional stability and maturity. So I feel sorry for them. And I'm not going to sit around and get depressed about it. But my daughter's first day of high school, I took her and her friends to her first day of high school, and I said, what people think of you is none of your business. And someone is going to be a fucking asshole to you and say, oh, aren't you ugly, or aren't you, or look at your shoe, or whatever the fuck, and she could have the nicest things, she could have, whatever. Someone's going to, if you put yourself up there on a pedestal, or a better way to put it would be in the spotlight. It's as if I say to the missus, it's as if all the bugs are attracted to those lights, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's going to be that element. But it's not what happens to you, man. This is the same in business. This is the same in fighting. This is the same in survival out in the bush, as you'd know. It's not what happens to you. It's how you deal with it. So if you decide to divide your resources in terms of your energy and your mental space to negativity like that, whatever you focus on is going to grow. So why am I going to keep putting my time, my valuable fucking time, and it's valuable to me. It might not be valuable to anyone else, but it's valuable to me. I need to have the clarity and even just relaxed enough state to be able to hang with my girls and have a good time and not be a cunt because I'm all strung out and all fucked off at what someone said on the internet. People say shitty things every day to me on the internet, and I don't give a fuck. I had a guy message me just before, and he goes, and I sort of skimmed over it, and he said, oh, in the video you said this and this and that and that, and can you clarify where that came? I said, why the fuck am I even going to reply? He's baiting me, he's baiting me into some political thing. I looked up this in so-and-so and la. I said, well, maybe I was fucking wrong. It was 13 years ago. You know what I mean? Maybe I was younger and less experienced in this field and less mature emotionally and whatever, and repeated some hearsay. Sorry, we're probably all fucking guilty of that to some degree ourselves. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Are you losing sleep over it? Get baked, fuck off, chill, man. Like there's bigger issues in the world than what he said, she said, So I'm sorry to if I seem like I'm disregarding your question. I'm not trying to do that at all. I'm just saying that how I personally deal with things like that are like, hold this, I'm busy. You know what I mean? I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't, anyone that's got something negative to say or to point out my flaws or weaknesses, I go, yeah, cool. Hold this, I'm busy. Because I'm busy working on my shit rather than worrying about someone's opinion. The only opinion that matters to me is mine and the opinion I have of myself, my own self-worth, and of course my staff and my family, because I need to be able to maintain a positive relationship with them based on trust and respect. As I said, I'm the friend or that guy that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So there's never really an agenda, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. And I don't want to get too personal here, but I know you mentioned you're into Buddhism and you are a practicing Buddhist. And a lot of the...
Try to be.
Well put. As best as I can. A lot of what you're saying right now, and I don't know much about Buddhism, but it sounds very philosophical. It sounds very martial artist. And I'm not saying martial artist in the terms of, McDojos, but I'm saying in the terms of you clearly have spent a lot of time doing self-reflection.
Yes.
Can you go into a little bit with us about kind of how you've gone from this, and I'm assuming this, but how you've gone from this kind of bouncer bro to where you are now, and you're very much philosophically, enlightened, so to speak?
I think it's all perspective. You know what I mean? Like I first got involved with the Taoist group in '98, was it? Something like that. And I was a young guy thinking, fuck cultivation. What are they talking about cultivation for? I remember that was one of the things. But um, it's like this. Taoist studies and practices is where feng shui, traditional Chinese medicine, and Tai Chi come from. So everything that you do within that is a reflection of the philosophy. So yes, it is based on philosophy, but they're really just guidelines. Now, certain sects, as in groups, have certain practices or things that they believe in and swear by, and specific groups have a discipline attached to them. So a way of their meditation or a way of their purification or cultivation, that they will refer to it as, is done through a certain practice. One group in Japan, for example, will hold a bowl of water and walk from where it's collected and pour it into this thing and walk back and forth and try not to spill any of it. And if they spill some, they start again or whatever. And it's not the point of what you're actually doing. It's the commitment to the focus. It's the it's that cultivation. It's the discipline. And there's great merit in discipline. There's great merit in facing a challenge and no matter what, sticking to it and focusing on that. And there's a skill in, as I said, focus and attentiveness to a certain thing and being aware of multiple things at the same time. So things like that. But anyway, Buddhism is more of a psychology, understanding your thoughts and your interactions with people and reflecting on those interactions, your actions, speech, and thoughts. So that's backwards. It's thought, speech, and action. So your thoughts will impact your speech will impact your actions, because you usually take action on what you're talking about, you know what I mean? But that all started with a thought, an idea that could be considered a life form itself. Confucianism is really how the social constructs of especially Korea and Japan are. We have 5 ways to communicate. For example, friend to friend, student to teacher, teacher to student, father to son, all those sort of things. So that sort of dictates the ways how you can communicate with each other in terms of what type of, how do I explain this, formal or informal, right? So I guess my logic is as anyone is just a byproduct of their environment. And as I said, spending majority of my adult life over there, and even here being just by way of chance, I don't really know how else to put it, but by way of chance, my family on my mother's side was, I guess, grew up like anyone else in a sort of Christian country, for lack of a better term. Our laws and everything here are based on Christianity and beliefs and stuff like that. And I think them, like many other people, not because Christianity is bad or anything, just they were looking for something else that made sense to them. And I was brought to a Buddhist seminar of Choedek Rinpoche Choedek, who's one under the Dalai Lama, who's the Australian representative here, Tibetan monk, in 94. I think it was 94 or 95. And everything just made sense. I remember sitting there and just thinking, this makes sense. It resonates with me. It just had this, I'm getting goose. My hairs are standing up on my arm right now thinking about it, because I had I had a realization that, not like this is my calling or anything, but I don't know, it just made sense to me. And I think when you're in the habit of reflecting on situations or experiences and trying to learn as much as you can from them, martial arts helps that. But martial arts is based on Buddhism. It started at the Shaolin Temple for all intents and purposes, right? The Romans were the first ones to militarize groups and train in a formatted way and all that sort of thing. But for all that we know in terms of Asian martial arts, it started at Shaolin Temple, so we're told, right? And that's a Buddhist monastery. It wasn't made for training martial arts. It's a Buddhist monastery. So the foundations of martial arts and what it teaches you, and that self-discipline and that commitment. One of my favorite sayings and mottos that we have on a lot of our gear and apparel and stuff is "Keizoku wa chikaranari," which means with persistence comes strength or success. Or with continuity, that constant grind will get you there. Sort of, there's a lot of ways you can translate that. But one of my friends in Japan, when I first sort of got over there and was doing judo, gave me this little, what would you call that? Like a fucking good luck charm that says that on it. And I was really broke at the time and working 3 jobs and losing weight and all that. So it was a fucked time in my life. But he just said, "Hey man, I think you'll really like this," and that really stuck with me. Just that approach of just, one of the things my mentor says to me, he goes, "Man, the secret to martial arts?" I say, "What's that?" And he goes, "Just keep fucking showing up. Just keep showing up. That's all you got to do. Just keep showing up." Don't worry about this guy, that guy's better than you. Just keep fucking showing up. That's all there is to it. And I think the simplicity of that is really cool. You know what I mean?
And, you know, it's like you ask any black belt, dude, how did you get your black belt? He's going to say, I just kept going and I just kept at it. And I didn't think about the damn black belt, just kept wanting to get better and better. And I think that that's really what, you know, whatever religion you practice, that's kind of the basic tenets of all religions. But I think also Buddhism particularly, just keep getting better and better and don't focus so much. What was that movie with Brad Pitt, The Last Samurai, where he says, too much thinking. You're thinking too much. And he goes, he has the enlightenment, and he realizes he needs to go into a state of, what was that? Zanchin, Muchin, something like that. So, yeah, and I think that really it's cool, man, that to see that you started off, you know, doing the CQC, and now to see where you are is kind of understanding a broader meaning of life is really cool.
Yeah, so I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry. Truth be told, it was kind of backwards though, because I started getting involved with all this stuff in that search for just understanding myself and how the world works and whatever a bit more, with something that made sense in around the late 90s, I guess. And around that time, as I said to you, you know, I thought that that knowing more about martial arts or knowing more martial arts made you a better martial artist. And so it wasn't until probably mid 2000s, as I said, around 05 or something, I started to realize, really into working on doors here in Australia and then in Japan, bit and bit, and, you know, doing that more and more, sort of realized that, hey, we have to make this divide. So I would say around 2010, 11, 12, 13 was where I was doing a lot of that tactical stuff in the States and Brazil, bits in Europe as well, obviously, actually. We would have guys that would come and teach at our gatherings that would do escape and evasion courses while we're teaching, like the combatives, and one guy's doing survival, one guy's teaching escape and evasion. So that's what I was sort of saying at the beginning. My whole tactical thing is just, I think, by way of luck, by understanding fundamental principles, and having the right people in our team that can introduce that. And I'm lucky enough to have done some of the training and have had to implement some of those things to save my own ass and the ass of others, obviously. But it doesn't make me anything special, as I said. My only point of bringing this up was I actually started off traditional, went to the whole, you know, modern sort of combative approach, survivalist approach, out of necessity because of the job and because of the fucking world that we live in. And then through those, let's just say, for lack of a better term, negative type of experiences, be it with violence or high-risk situations or incidences, accidents, whatever you want to call them, reflect on those too. And I think just with a bit of maturity, realized, you know, being a father to a teenage daughter, going through, you know, marriage and breakup and all these sort of things, and it just, you're a byproduct of your action, your environment, but you also have to reflect on your actions. And I guess I just learned to make each step a bit more calculated. I'm not the impulsive type that I was maybe when I was younger.
Yeah.
But it has kind of been that sort of, you know, traditional, modern, and I prefer traditional, but supply and demand in any business, right? The demand is combative stuff, so I end up talking more about that, whereas I'd rather talk about, you know, meditating and tripping out on different ideas and thinking about thinking, you know. That's not for everyone. But
thinking about a tripped out idea, and you know, I realize it's getting late here in the States, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, because you've been talking a lot about coming full circle and things. And when I hear you talk, I think about a lot of ancient ideas brought into the modern world, and a lot of traditional martial training brought into the modern world. I think it was Mad Dog Mattis over here, one of our Marine Corps generals, and he said there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to martial arts or combatives. Do you feel like maybe you've been around before, maybe you've been around in Japan or China, you know, before, and then now you're back here just trying to figure this modern way of things out?
My missus said that the other day. She said, how, because that's a conversation that comes up in Japanese and in Buddhism and in reincarnation and that. And she said, how many, she said, so you reckon, she thinks that it's her first time here and that's why she's making so many fuck ups. That's her, you know, what she said, just translating what she said. And she said, I reckon you've been here at least 100 to 1,000 times or something, because I understand processes of business and survival, and I'm on my shit and I'm able to manage people and lead them. That's what she was talking about. Not that I'm saying that myself, but I said, I don't know. I'm with this approach that I have been a byproduct of my environment and upbringing through the martial arts and through the different beliefs, studying different belief systems or whatever. I guess that I'm just impartial to everything, and I'm willing to accept that idea as an idea that could be true, but it's just not yet my truth. It's not something I'll live by and say, well, when I was a kid, I was told that my grandfather was this, of a certain background, and I thought, do I have to identify with that? Polynesian culture, for example. Do I have an obligation to learn Tongan or something, or do I, understand more Polynesian sort of cultural practices? And I was very intrigued by it for a long time. And then I realized, well, I got nothing to do with him. I don't fucking know him. So I need to, make a name for myself if that's the objective. If you know what I mean? Like, rather than sort of focusing on what's been said and done before, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's important to understand where you've come from and who's helped you along the way and all those sort of things. But like old mate you're talking about before, I can't remember his name, sorry, Mad Dog something. I probably would recognize him if he was on, saw something
Sure.
of his or whatever. All respect to him, just got a really bad memory with the accident, brain damage and that. But the point is that there is nothing new. And one thing I'd like to say is that I think consistency is key. And if, I've had guys come and do one course, like a weekend course, and then they had only ever done Taekwondo or Hapkido or fucking whatever. And then all of a sudden they're selling these urban combat ninja warrior fucking things. And I'm like, fuck, and they're trying to outdo me or prove a point and whatever. They've even turned around and said, oh, he's this and that, he's not actually this and that. So I never promote myself as anything that I'm not. But if I have, I'm very sorry, and I'll openly apologize for that. I've said, this is what I've done. That's it. This is what I'm into. We're having a good time. You want to come join us? Come join us. If you don't, fucking whatever. That's fine. Like, go ahead. Zumba for men's out there. Everything. There's something for everyone. You know what I mean? I don't mind. I'm not trying to be competitive, but the point is, when I see guys jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, and they'll change their name or their logo or the concept they've got, they're coming up with these new things. I remember TJ got caught in something with I can't remember who, and I don't really care, about this concept of, he's putting his hands on his head, about a Trinity block or something. And he said, what do you think about this, bro? And I said, fuck him. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, he said something about who's saying. I said, fuck him. Do you need him? Like, whoever, it doesn't matter. Fuck them. Like, everyone was asking me in the beginning, oh, do you come from Casey? Casey, I said, I don't know anyone from fucking Casey. I know some guys in the UK who were their former representatives now. But this concept of this comes from our tomahawk and machete work that I was doing 20 years ago with my mentor, and it's nothing fucking new. So to come back to your original point, there's nothing new. There's not. There's so many concepts, this concept, we call this a jam in Salat, and we do it double and we do it parted, where it'll be from a hook, which may or may not be the most practical thing, but it's just something we did since way back in the day in Kuntao, is attacking the bicep when it's coming in at a hook, either a double and this sort of motion like that, or 1-2, and then what they call a hack to the floating ribs. That's something that's been around forever. And if someone takes this concept and does a whole course around that and brands it as this, thing, that's great. But you can't say that just because another style or another person or whatever does something similar, that they've taken it from that guy. It's like, well, fuck, hold on, didn't he get it from somewhere else? And can you really try and copyright a movement? Because the body can only move in so many different ways.
Yeah.
We have fucking 4 limbs or 8 limbs, whatever philosophy you want to go off, Muay Thai and whatever. So who's to say that so and so should be credited for this, and so also should be shamed for doing something similar but not giving credit to? Well, should he give his credit for everything that he's saying to his father for teaching him the fucking language? Like, how far do we want to go with this? You know what I mean? So that's another reason why, as I said to you, I don't watch anyone else's things. I guess I fuck around on Instagram sometimes, and I stay off everything else. So when things come up and I go, oh wow, that guy's moving similar, I don't know whether they've watched my shit or they've learned that shit somewhere else, or they do. It doesn't matter to me. I just think, cool, do you, bro? Like, that's it. I don't mind. When TJ said to me about you, he goes, do I've got a mate so and so that does a podcast that's such and such. Would you be interested? I just did it or something. Like, yeah, bro, cool, sweet,
Yeah.
awesome. Why not? Fucking, I hadn't. I listen to comedy. What else have I got in here? I've got some Buddhist ones in the podcast. And my shit that I sit there and listen to and veg out is a lot of comedy and philosophical type stuff like psychology. You know what I mean? Just understanding our thoughts and the thought processes, and that is what I think the basis of Buddhism is. But we're not closed off to say, hey, we're in this sect and we're in, this is the only way. We're actually open to. In the Taoist group, we actually had most of the other books there: the Bible, the Quran, the Torah from the Judaism, and a bunch of stuff. And it's about understanding each other and having a respect for each other, and just seeing anyone else you come across as a fellow human being that deserves the same amount of respect as you'd like to have. So, in this realm, in this industry, in this whatever, I don't focus on anyone else or what they're doing, and at the same rate, I don't mind. I'm like, do you? That's all I think. So in terms of the negativity or anyone else out there doing this or that, I think cool. It's all part of it, man. You cannot, you know what I mean? You can't. It's like walking into a nightclub and thinking that everyone there is going to be a certain way. With a crowd, there's going to be good and bad apples. There's going to be people who have got a predator mentality or mindset. There's going to be chicks out there that are polite and respectable and this, that, and the other. And there'll be chicks there that will heal you in the back. They banned stilettos here for a while because they're fucking smacking bouncers and other club stuff in the back of their head. And they weren't serving bottles here for a while because there were so many people using. They were serving them in little cups. I came back here in 2013 or whatever, and someone gave me like a red cup, like those party cups.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck's this? And they were like, we don't serve glasses anymore. I said, I ordered a Corona. What the fuck? Isn't that something that's probably not going to be a thing anymore?
Hold the virus.
Yeah. And they go, well, we can't serve. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. So I don't know. There's that element everywhere. But yeah, man, it's just. I think if anyone wants to do this and be successful, one thing to note is you guys that are coming into this industry, both modern and traditional, some of them unfortunately approach it with a traditionalist mindset of, I'm going to shit on everyone else and make a name for myself and everyone will look at me. It's that call out culture. I've had it. I had it Christmas Day. I had a guy, I talked about this on episode 27 of What We Do, our podcast, and the guy tagged me in something. So I woke up Christmas morning and he tagged me in a post and he'd done a whole review video about me, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought, fuck, good on you, cunt. You got me. Christmas morning, wake up, I'm about to give my kid a present. I'm with the family, I'm about to have a good day, and this guy's come and tried to take a big hot stinking shit on. I went, good one, cunt, and just delete, fucking on I go. I didn't think about the rest of the day or any of the time. I just thought, what a cunt of a move. But how sad is your life that you have to try and pick apart something I put out on the internet so long ago that I probably wouldn't do. I definitely wouldn't do the same now. And I've been through some of my shit and I thought, fuck, no, I've got to take that down. I don't like this. I would have done that. I've educated myself in this realm better. Fuck, why have I still left that out there? And then someone picked that apart and went, I deserve that. I should have gotten rid of it. I should have, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And there's a lot of guys out there teaching Taekwondo or even BJJ for self-defense. I think, are you fucking high? Like, why would you pull? You know what I mean? Like, there was a girl that was pulling guard on a guy with a gun. Eric Paulson sent me that video. He goes, man, check this out. And there's a chick pulling guard on a guy with a gun, and he's waving it around. She's like, this is the, UFC. Everyone in the UFC does BJJ, and BJJ is okay, if you say so. And people are never wrong to their own logic, and everyone has their own opinion. They'll never be wrong to their logic. What they do is right. You can't change their mind, and I don't bother trying. So,
and that really says a lot to me is you can't change their mind. Why even bother trying? You're just going to stir up a pot and get yourself fucked up, right? Yeah.
Fucking oath, man. So yourself? I've just been ranting so much. Sorry, man. You've got a YouTube channel and a podcast.
Yeah.
And you're educating people on this sort of thing as well, right?
Exactly. Like yourself, around 2012, I started really getting into the tactical community and things like that. I traveled all over the world, training in, executive protection, martial arts, combatives, tactical things, basically. And in 2015, 2016, end of 2015, I got hired as a firefighter. So I
Awesome.
really kind of stopped doing much of the tactical stuff. But as I was saying, you don't become it, it becomes you. And it's always going to be a part of me. So now I do this just as a side thing, just as a hobby. I've got the YouTube channel, Gutter Fighting Secrets, obviously Instagram. I'm on TikTok now, but that's kind of been a mistake anyway. But the podcast is really when I get to sit down and talk to guys who are expert at their trade and their craft. And it's really a privilege to me. Like I always continue to say this is I don't know a lot about this stuff. I mean, I've got the pieces of paper on the wall like yourself, but I'm always going to be a student of the martial arts. And for me to sit down with people who have been through way more than I is it's such a treat for me because I can just sit down, shut up, and learn about things. And that's really, I think, what makes a person better is at martial arts or in anything in general is being willing to say, hey, what do you have to teach me? How much can I learn from you? And thank you for letting me basically pick your brain about things that you've been doing, not you specifically, but you as well, for your whole life. And it's really always very cool.
I think it's a great approach. Two things that I get from that is one, the fact that you're doing it as a hobby is definitely the right move. If you're trying to do it from the beginning and this be your bread and butter or the way that you support your family and it's your only option, if you got yourself in a position like I was probably 10 years ago or whatever, and you think, fuck man, it's either do or die, I have to do this 110% or I'm going to fail. I've got nothing else to really fall back on because I didn't want to go and work, EP stuff or whatever the fuck. There's always talks of contracts, there's always talks of TV and books and this and that, and you just think, but they come and go, and a lot of them it's not a deal until money's in the bank, as you'd know. Anyone can talk and you can be sitting with the rich. I've worked for some really, really well-off people and still am now. And at the end of the day, they're just people and things can go wrong in their plans too. So to do it as a hobby, you can afford to be passionate about it and not be resentful towards it. Because if things don't go your way, say you don't get the amount of followers or likes or shares or whatever the fuck you're looking for, reviews, like I've been shadow banned on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook especially. YouTube, out of 147,000 subscribers, I'll put something up and 400 people see it. Why do you think that is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a fucking reason. But it doesn't dishearten me because that's just something I put out there out of habit because it's a practice that you have and you should maintain. But, to do it as a hobby means that you'll be able to do it with passion and you still love it and you have a love for what you do. So, like I said, if you are trying to just get the most amount of money out of this in the shortest amount of possible time, your focus will be elsewhere. It's like when you're running a gym and if you're in the mindset of, fuck, I need X amount of people to pay X amount of rent, to pay X amount of bills, to X amount of staff, whatever, or you really get fixated on that money side of things and you start to lose the attentiveness towards where it should be, and that should be the quality of your classes and the quality of your interactions with people. So I think that you're definitely going about it the right way. You're not going about it backwards at all. I think you're doing it in a better way than compared to what I was, obviously. The second thing was about being open to learn from people and everything. And there's two types of people that will come to a seminar, and there's some people that are in it for life and they're out of general interest and want to have that white belt mentality and pick your brain on things. And I really appreciate those people and often find that I can have a really good conversation with them about life in general, not even about martial arts, which is even better, I think. Because at the end of the day, we're all just people and we want to connect on that humane level, I don't think we should be looking at the differences as in what divides us, but what brings us together. And if it's a common passion for something like this, then let's just talk in general, fuck. But there's two types of people. There's technique collectors, and there's, as I said, people who are in it for life. And technique collectors often come in with a little bit, this isn't everyone, but it's just the type of person that you come across often that will be like, oh, but we do it this way. But in my style, we do it like this. I'm like, awesome, now you have two ways. Or if you don't want to fucking listen to it, now you have one. But for me, when I go to my BJJ class, for example, I shut up and listen. Although I could strongly disagree with the approach of what they're doing in terms of a street scenario, I still think it's pretty cool. There's dexterity and a skill level involved in this, and it's something for me to aspire to be better in and to commit to and learn. So that's a positive, as I said before, the merit of that process of being disciplined and committing yourself to that is great. So for me to shut up and listen, there's a brown belt there, a Brazilian guy, who heard about me working with the Brazilian military. And the coach was saying, oh, when you back in Brazil, this and that, and we were talking about it. And he goes, oh, do you have any of those photos? I went, oh, yeah. I got some from the Brazilian army and this and that. And I showed him. And he goes, but this Krav Maga shit will never work against the knife. I said, firstly, I don't do Krav Maga. And if you want, I'll take one out right fucking now, because I've always got one on me. So what are you going to do if I start putting holes in you, man? You think you're going to pull guard? And I got really fucked off. And because it was like, because I'm not the same level of him in that, we were standing out the front. We weren't in the gym. We were just having a casual conversation. So he was trying to put me down and be a cocky little cunt. And to be honest, I could sit there and frape him and there'd be nothing you could do about it. Just these all day, man. I'm going to keep doing that until you stop twitching if I want to do that. But to have that restraint, to have that personal control, and then just to sometimes let people know, hey, man, think about this. Just because you're a big fish in this little pond doesn't mean you're a big fish out there everywhere. Because one of the guys got into an incident and he was rolling with the guy on the street for half an hour trying to subdue this guy. And he got seriously injured just because he was approaching himself in a sports mentality. And I was saying, fuck, man, just think about this for a second. I didn't get too caught in this conversation, but he sort of came at me. It's hard to explain it anyway. I said, think about this. The way that we're training here is no one's allowed to punch you. Right? No one's allowed to strike. What's the first thing that's happening what's the main thing that's happening in an actual scrap? People are trying to fucking punch your head in, man. They're not trying to reverse your little move or escape or shrimp or whatever. They're trying to punch your fucking head in. So to try and be as realistic as possible, you need to be able to train in those environments or scenarios in normal clothes on the we call it car park, what do you call it? Parking lot. On the asphalt or bitumen or whatever. And I said, why don't we roll here? He goes, what? I said, I just did. I showed him a video. I was training with one of my staff who's top 8 in the world for IBJJF or whatever, on the footpath and on the bitumen, asphalt, you may call it. And we're getting all carved up. And I said, if you don't do this at least once a year, fuck, man, your approach to BJJ will only ever be sport. And I'm here to tell you right now, I don't disagree with what you're doing. I think you're awesome at what you're doing. I'm here to learn. I'm here to shut up and be a student. But for me to sit here and shut up like this, I know what I know, but you don't know what I know. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I know what you know, but you don't know what I know.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with BJJ guys, man. Strict, pure water BJJ guys is it's their way or the highway, and I've heard this plethora of times in my gym is, BJJs, all fights go to the ground and you just trip them and da-da-da. Yeah, but like you're saying, guys are going to try to take your head off with that, mean punch, and it's going to be nasty, and you can't just pull a card on those guys. It's not going to work, unfortunately.
It's not often one-on-one either. Every dickhead has a mate. It's not often one-on-one. So when we're practicing with pajamas on the mats that are comfortable, these are 60 mil or whatever, so it's comfortable. Nothing's comfortable about a violent encounter or a high-risk situation where you've got your missus or you're with your kid and some shit's kicking off. I was in Hawaii with my daughter and we were walking along a path and a fight kicked off between a bunch of homeless guys. And it was fucking sketchy. And I thought, no technique in the fucking world is applicable here. Yeah. There's common sense and there's street smart, life-saving skills, which is having a set of priorities and awareness, man. It's got nothing to do with it. I could be whatever belt. I got tons of things that say nice shit about me. I tell you what, it's experience, man, and awareness. So
bring up, I know you went through EP training as well, and if you're all tied up with one guy, trying to wrap him up, where's your principal? Where's your client? How are you protecting them in any way? So.
When you're with a team, it's okay because obviously one guy can cover the client or the VP, whatever you want to call them, VIP. The other guy can be handling the situation, but then where are you going? How are you communicating? And what does he do after that? Interception. Do you know what I mean? How does he know how to follow up? And have you run those scenarios? Because I've worked with guys who've done BJJ, Krav Maga, and karate. One of the best guys I worked with. One of them just did all random shit, but actually one of the other guys was a karate guy, and he didn't give a fuck about any technique or anything. Just dropping cunts, and he just didn't get tangled up. He was really good at that, Just really, really. I saw him drop a dude with a shot to the solar plexus. We were standing. All I heard is just and this guy's fucking spewing over in the corner. And then the other guy that was this, he went and did all this other crab stuff in Israel and somewhere else, and he was carrying a bobby pin with him. And I said, "What's that about?" And he goes, "Well, when the guys throw a grenade, what I'm going to do is get this bobby pin out of my wallet, and I'm going to disarm it." Basically, I said, "You said you're going to have you ever thrown a grenade? Some of them go off on impacts, and when they land, some go up 3 seconds, some 5, some are this and that. Do you and I don't know fuck all about it. I played with them a little bit in Brazil, and maybe the extent of it, I think. I don't know what the fuck I'm on about. Do you, when that thing's coming at you, do you go, oh, that's a so-and-so? It's like, cool, just grab my wallet. Oh, fuck, wallet's in my bag. Next thing, you're in fucking pieces making headlines. Mouth breather from Australia thinks that he can take on grenade. You know what I mean?
You bring up crowd. I got to ask you, man. Bullshit or not, man?
I think it's up to the person. How they. It's not the tool. It's the operators. You'd say. It's not the art. It's the artist. It's not the song. It's the player. Everyone can ruin a song, or everyone could cover a song on guitar and make it really nice. You could have their own version that's just standing out. It's not the song. It's the singer kind of thing. So those with a background, those with functional. And I know guys who have been in. One of the guys I'm working with now had been doing that and that for 4 years, BJJ for 16. And as soon as we went and did sparring, he froze up, went, oh, fuck. I said, what's wrong? And he goes, 1, he didn't roll enough. The BJJ was with the military. 2, the Krav Maga was all scenario-based stuff and they weren't sparring. So I know other places do spar and they try to be as functional as they possibly can. And they have a background in, let's say, Muay Thai or something like that. Other guys will have a background in, let's say, Hapkido and be of a traditionalist mindset. And be very rigid and shine away from sparring. So I think it would be unfair of me to paint everyone with the same brush, so to speak, or a broad brush. I can't remember what that saying is, but I'd heard it recently and it made them sound smart, so I tried and failed just now. There you go. But it's just, look, people said to me, why don't you do Krav Maga? Why don't you try Krav Maga? I said, well, I'd say 60% now of our instructor community are probably former Krav Maga instructors, but I think that the groups that they come from it sounds to me that it was really like one of those in Japan we call them like a black belt factory where they're just pumping out certificates, selling certificates, and I've come across that in Japan too, man. So what I know 2 organizations in the UK that were sold some of my guys some certifications before they came to me. I did a 3-hour seminar on jab cross with them, and it was jab cross, pass jab, as in parry, pass jab cross, pass cross jab cross, and it was the functionality of a straight punch. And these guys were blown away, and this was in 2013, I believe, and they're still with me now because they were like, holy fuck, this makes sense. And all I did was when I walked in there, 7 or 8 of them were Krav Maga instructors. I said, okay, guys, I don't know what you do, where you come from, whatever. I just want to see you shadow box for 30 seconds or a minute, please. Let's go, just shadow box. I could tell straight away that they had no real understanding of structural alignment, of form, of connectivity, of synchronizing their breath with their motions, or form to how to land a fucking punch or how to read an oncoming random attack, or not putting their chin over their feet, as in putting themselves off balance or putting themselves in vulnerable positions. It was all about remembering moves for certain moves or certain answers to certain questions, as in if someone grabs you like this, or 2-handed wrist grab from the side, which is part of their syllabus apparently. It's like when they said to me, what do you do if someone grabs you? I said, why the fuck would I let you put your hands on me? It comes down to attitude. You can know all these things, but why the fuck am I going to let you put your hand? What the fuck? It's not that I disagree with their methods or their approach. It's just for me, and knowing what I know based on my experience. And it doesn't mean that it's greater and better and more special than anyone else's. It's just to say there's no fucking way that I'm going to put myself in a position of disadvantage. Now, I understand if you're the average human being like I am, you're prone to mistakes, just like before. I couldn't even speak properly. So there you go. But if you find yourself in that position where you've let it escalate to that point, or you didn't have the tools or the skill set to be able to avoid and prevent yourself from getting in that position, and they're actually grabbing you, or you've been hit from behind, you're on the ground and you're getting your head stomped in, which is very common too. What do you do from there? I get that. So you do need to cover those scenarios. But for me, The approach in how we do it is avoidance and prevention before imminent threat management. So when you get to that imminent threat management, I believe personally, you need to understand striking. As a striker by trade, you really need to understand striking. BJJ is great. Still do it. Still do catch wrestling in BJJ. I think it's fucking fun and it's awesome, and it definitely are transferable attributes from that. For example, the positions that you need to understand and have an understanding and awareness of, so that you understand your options and priorities when you're in that position. But one of our resident black belts, Phil, for example, who's been a black belt since 2012, who really did create our ground syllabus, even says, you're supposed to fight out of that position. You're not supposed to fight into that position and look for a tap. You're supposed to be looking for your fucking way home. So we play drills, for example, where the guy will get kesa gatame, like a side control kesa. And we start off at 10 seconds and we'll go 5, maybe 3. After 10 seconds, his mate's going to come up with a knife and start stabbing you, or maybe he'll have the blade or whatever. So you've got 10 seconds to fight out of that position. He's holding you as hard as he can, pinning you to the ground. He might even start punching you. You have 10 seconds. Okay, you thought that was fucking hard. Let's do it in 5. So we have brown belts and even black belts that are coming in and going, they're really good at that position and they know their options, based on their skill set and their tools or the options available to them. And they are in a counterproductive mindset because they're comfortable to lay on their back for 20 minutes, right? So what we're saying now is, how much do you think can happen in 10 seconds? Especially if you're so tunnel vision that you forget that this guy's got 4 mates and you've gone, oh, sweet, he's come for a tackle. I'm going to sit back and fucking pull him into my guard and I'm going to work from here and I'm going to, reverse his position. Next thing you feel like, oh, I'm being punched with a hot needle. What's that about? You know what I mean? You're getting fucking shanked. And the longer you spend in a detrimental or a position of a disadvantage, the more chances of that scenario becoming a crisis rather than an imminent threat increase. You know what I mean? So the loss of life or property, as in you're being stabbed, you're injured now. You need medical attention. You don't need a tap. You need medical attention. So what are you doing based on that information, that priority? So as I said, with our training, be it tactical, be it the grappling side of things, I want to get the best guys with the best experience to educate me and my team on what our options are, what's most practical, and why is it that practical? Why have you found that this method of shooting, for example, why is that most practical? And one of our guys has said, well, for example, when I was going through a building, I had to clear it myself before taking, I gotta be fucking vague here. Certain things that you do are always going to be based on your situation. The situation is going to dictate your options, isn't it? You know what I mean? And what you in a situation of survival, be it fight, be it business, be it whatever, the point is that you're going to have to do what you got to do, not what you want to do, right? So you better understand what your options are realistically within the constraints of that situation. So if he's got 4 mates and they're trying to kick your fucking teeth in while you're on the ground, are you really going to be trying to pull that kimura from half guard or whatever the fuck it is? You know what I mean? Like but if that's all you've focused on for the last 3 months because you're trying to compete soon, and now you find yourself in a situation where it's completely different to what you were aiming at putting yourself in, how are you going to respond appropriately, or how are you going to act appropriately in a condition that's so different? It doesn't make sense to me. It's not to say that Krav Maga is wrong, BJJ is wrong, anyone else is wrong. To them, they'll never be wrong to their own logic. Everyone's got their own opinion. I can't change it. But to me, just to be, clear, that's how I see it, based on having seen some really bad shit and been involved in some fucking hairy situations. And then I understand that, okay, BJJ is a sport and it's fun. And that's what I need to accept it as,
So Luke, when we go ahead and cross-train in a system like BJJ or like BJJ, how do we maintain that edge of survival, of street fighting? Is it necessary to go back and retrain doing things like, eye gouges, philtrum, sweeps, whatever, every so often? Is it necessary to really keep practicing those skills, or once they're ingrained, are they just ingrained?
I think that's a good question. And I would say this, that, on the topic of ingraining something, it can become, the power of habit. So if you've got a habit of pulling guard, if you've got a habit of this female that was one of my staff, as I said, she was top 8 in IBJJF. When I went to bridge and throw her this way, she put her head on the ground, and I actually heard it go like that on the ground. And I went, oh, fuck, are you okay? And she's like, I can't believe I just fucking did that. She goes, in competition, I'd always use my head for, balancing out at that third point of balance, getting that, what do we call it? A post. So in Japanese, I'm trying to think of this in English. And she goes, why the fuck would I do that on the street? She said, thank you. So we'd already had 4 beers, like these tall, beers. So we were like, this is a perfect time to fucking spar. You know what I mean? When you're not feeling good, you're a bit fucking lightheaded, your reaction time's slowed. It's fucking awesome. I did another one where we did hand-to-hand sparring, and then we did striking only, and then we'd striking and grappling, no holds barred, only 20 to 30% intensity, but everyone had 4 to 6 beers, and we had the gloves and headgear on, and I'm like, let's fucking go at it, because now you find yourself in a scenario that's much more common and realistic, or has more consistencies with a real scenario compared to the dojo. There's no similarities between, that's painting with a broad brush as well, but my point is you've got to make similarities between the street and the gym or the dojo, whatever you want to call it. So my point is that if you're so high trained in that, it's likely that you're going to have habits or sort of be fixed in the way of doing things that you'll do in that scenario, being only one-on-one, no strikes, in pajamas on the mats, right? So to answer your question about how to train that, what we do and what I do with my guys is I'll give them a crash course in the positions and options. So I go like, these are the positions, transitions, escapes, and options in that. So escapes, they may have, be it BJJ, judo even, and catch wrestling, and some Silat stuff, believe it or not, things I learned way back in the day. I posted a photo the other day from like '04, a Silat thing I was doing, and someone was like, oh, is that BJJ? So I wasn't doing BJJ then. They're just a fucking position. Once they understand their position and the priorities in that position and what can really happen in that position, is like the danger of when someone's got your back. Okay, what are your priorities there, for example? And then what should I be doing? Should I be fighting to do this, or should I be fighting to do that? Some guys will go straight into grabbing something, like grabbing the pants on the hip and pinning that and doing this, whereas mine is like in the fucking sack. You know what I mean? Like I want to get a reaction. I want to create a response that will give me the path of least resistance. Phil, one of our resident black belts, says, he said this for years. He goes, man, you've got a black belt, one in the face or a brown belt, one in the face or a blue belt, one in the face. Hey, if you've got a guy that's sitting there and can no longer cognitively function, how well is his skill set's going to be? And he's focusing on something that's very technical, that requires that not gross motor skills, but fine motor skills to some degree, because it's so technical. I watch guys from 10th Planet and I think, fuck, that's a really cool martial art. They've got so much going on. They are such masters of the puzzle and the sort of mind maps and neurological pathways that are going on in their brain to how to use the 4 limbs that they have to wrap one guy up and do this. But is there any fucking way that I would do any of that on the street? Well, you see combat jiu-jitsu worlds or whatever it is that Eddie Bravo is talking about. As soon as that palm strike was allowed in the face, so much of that was going out the window. Don't get me wrong. If you've got a guy like, was it one of the Gracies? Fuck, what was his name? The one in New York. The one that I really like and follow. Fuck, what was his name? One of the Gracies. He won the UFC bout at like 51 or 52 the other day.
Yeah. Well, wasn't Henzo, was it?
Henzo, of course, yeah. Henzo, yeah. I really like him. He's cool. He did it with this crazy leg lock, and you're like, of course you wouldn't think that'd work, but he was good enough to pull it off. You know what I mean? Are we Henzo? No.
Exactly, and people get wrapped up in like, oh, Henzo, the choke, the document, like all that, but like he's a beast. Again, it goes back when you're talking about those special operations guys. They're a beast, of course. They can just kill a terrorist and like walk away and have a cigarette, but like. Yeah, not everyone can do that,
That's it, man. And and to think that, for starters, if you're not training yourself like a fighter or living that fighter life, and one of my friends called me a fighter recently. She introduced me to a boyfriend. She goes, "Oh, he's a fighter." And so I said, "No, I'm not. I do spar every time at BJJ and whatever, and I'm still doing Muay Thai and striking, and I am training. I'm running every day, and I'm trying to live that lifestyle as best I can to stay fit and healthy, so I can function efficiently and be a better version of myself. But I'm not those guys, man. The misses will be, the guys in Japan who are working doors and still fighting in the ring. They have their misses working a job or two to support their lifestyle to try and see if they can make it. And if you're at the top, someone's always trying to get at you. Someone's always, I got one guy in Chiba who's he just keeps losing, man. He's just not he's not mentally there. He's physically capable, but he's not mentally there. He gets in there and he breaks under pressure. And I just think, man, you're chasing the wrong dream. Make something of yourself in another realm, because so what? You just to be the best at something, it's gonna come and go. Do you know what I mean? There's gonna be, so when people ask me, oh, what about going to the ring? First, I couldn't get insurance with this since '05. That was one thing. When I first went to Japan, I was really, really keen to jump in and see what I could be capable of. And I had some health issues with that, with tumors in my body and nearly dying a few times and this sort of shit. And I thought, life's bigger than this, man. I'm not going to commit myself to that to prove to myself when I know I have nothing to hide, nothing to prove. So I'm happier now where I am. And I'm glad that I've taken that route instead of trying to fucking, even competing in BJJ. I thought 2020, I'll jump in and see what I can learn, because I know I'm going to take a heap of losses, but that's going to improve me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the only way to fucking get better. So let's see what we can learn.
Man, and it's because you're not afraid to take those losses. You realize, yeah, it's inevitable. Like, I'll lose a fight or two. If I'm going to go compete against jiu-jitsu guys, these guys, it's all they do. Sure. But eventually I'll win, and eventually I'll get much better. And that's the mentality right there.
I'm winning at life. I live in paradise. I've got a happy family. I got everything I want and need. So why the fuck does a little tournament? You know what I mean? Like, does it matter? Don't give a fuck. I'd rather lose and learn than walk in there and just fucking plow through everyone and go, oh, that was easy. Oh, fuck, I didn't get any better. What did I learn today? That I'm fitter than them, or I'm heavier than them, and that's what my advantage. I gotta find those deficiencies to identify them and work on them. You know what I mean?
And it's that mentality that will allow you to win, quite frankly, I think. Yeah.
Oh, fucking oath. And I think that all the other guys out there who are killing it in terms of those circuits and whatever, that's the only way they've gotten there, I think.
I think so. I think you're right. And I've only got a couple of tournaments under my belt, but I know this for one thing for sure, is that the last one that I was able to win, man, it was because I didn't give a fuck. And I said, I'll either win or I'll lose. And then I'll go home and, whatever. I won, and that's how I won. The first one I went into, I lost it, and I was like, oh, I need to win. Like, it's not the right mentality, man. You got to have that detached mind state, I think, personally.
Well, it sounded like maybe you were just from nerves, and everyone does this, is maybe already beating themselves up before the fight,
That could be.
Mentally. Because it's guys that have worked the door with me, and I'll give them this is way back when, I'd give them a night or a week, usually a weekend, see how they do Friday, Saturday night, and sort of just gauge them on their level of awareness and personability, how they can interact with people, how friendly they are, all that sort of thing, how well they deal with people in situations. And you can see who's never been fucking cracked in the face before, because they're anticipating it and they're scared of it. They're scared of that punch in the face. Going, fuck, what if he hits me? What if it kicks off? I'm going, why are you here? Why am I babysitting? You've said that you've done this, and this, you've done this course, you've done this much. Why are you here? If you're worried about being punched, come here, I'll punch you in the fucking face. We'll get this over and done with. You know what I mean? You can hit me first if you want. Let's get it over and done with. Fuck it now. If that's the biggest thing in your life that you're concerned about, bro, you got some fucking issues. You know what I mean? Because it could escalate. Don't get me wrong. You get knocked out and stabbed and stomped. I get that. I'm not trying to take away from that. My point of that was, if you live in fear of anticipating the hypothetical outcome or the possible outcome, or just playing those hypotheticals of, what if this, what if that, if you're going to play the what if game, we're not going to get anywhere, and that's why I shut up in BJJ too, man. I won't sit there and go, what if I do this? What if I do that? Because I've had those cunts in my classes, and I think, well, we're not talking about that right now, man. We'll get to that. But if I could just finish what I'm saying here now about this particular scenario, there's an answer for that. Right now we're looking at this. Cool. They're just trying to catch you out, and you think, why are you here? You're not here to learn. You're here to be a cunt. Go be a cunt somewhere else. Go do boxing.
It's funny, dude. It's funny the way that a lot of guys will come to a martial arts seminar or whatever, and it's almost like they're coming to prove that they're like an awesome fighter or whatever. It's kind of a weird game that they play with themselves.
We had a black belt, a shorter sort of Asian guy. I don't know why that matters, but why leave it out? Came into the gym, and he came in his black belt taekwondo uniform, and he had the black things around, the stripes and all that, and his belt. And I also had an Aikido guy come to my class in full Hakam, and he goes, I'm here to teach. And he was young. He was like, 18 or something. And I went, oh yeah, okay, cool. And I had him spar with one of our guys, and he left him full of regret. And there was, so the black belt BJJ guy I was really nice to him, and he goes, "Oh, you know, I'm a black belt taekwondo," and I thought, "So am I." So what? You know, I got one when I was a teenager and whatever, and I thought that was the thing to do. But we were we did a drill where it's like piggy in the middle, the guy's in the middle, and whoever wins stays. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we do the same thing in Japan. We call kachinokori, the guy who wins stays. So the guy, he, I think I was in the middle or something. Anyway, it got to this point where it was a takedown game, so I had to throw him. And you could see he's kind of like nervous and trying to figure out how he can avoid this situation, especially because he's a black belt. And he's going, "Fuck, how do I?" And I go, "Yeah, it's all right, man. Come on, throw me, put me down. And I let him get me once. So he kind of got his confidence. He's like, "Okay, this isn't that bad. Cool." And then when I threw him, I can't remember what the setup was, but he stood, he did something, and I got a sweet hip throw. Fucking got his feet up off the ground and just put him down gently. And he's going, "Holy fuck, what was that?" I'm going, "This is different to what you do, man. That's all." And it's really good that you're here. But I think his ego was hurt, and he didn't come back. And I think that it's that breaking point in sparring where people go, "I'm shit at this. I need to get better," or "Fuck this. That was way too much work," and it hurt them in terms of their ego. You know?
Yeah. And I don't think you can have too much ego when you really start training in the marsh, because you're going to get beat up. You know.
But that's a good point, and I think that's maybe why BJJ can be a good thing for people, because you can get physically injured. I've got a heap of injuries from it, don't get me wrong, but if it's not getting pounded in the face, and it's just in terms of getting submitted, and you can just tap and it can all be over, and then reset and start again, that can be a good thing for people. My only point was that you don't want to be caught in that mindset where it's debilitating or it's impairing your ability to function functionally in a real situation, because you're in a bad habit of pulling guard and going for an armbar rather than fucking need to get out of here. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think that people are not educated enough, be it through lack of experience or lack of that information being presented to them. I don't know, but they think, well, everyone's doing BJJ, so that's what's going to save my ass on the street. I think every man wants to know that they can handle themselves, you know what I mean? So a lot of guys come there thinking that, oh, I'm the shit. And I know a bunch of guys at my gym who I'm actually friends with who have got a bit of a chip on their shoulder about it, and they don't know who I am or what I do. They just know me as that guy that hangs out and, you know, this and that. And then some of them find out and they go, "Fuck, man, why didn't you ever mention that?" I said, "There was no need." Yeah. What the fuck for? And they kind of hold you in a different regard and even talk to you differently. I go, "Oh, isn't this strange? Now that you know that I could frape you and there's fuck all you could do about it," you know what I mean? Yeah. Now you're sort of treating me with a lot more respect. Isn't that weird? You know what I mean? What a person. You know what I mean? Like, and I've always been the same to them. Like, "Yeah, bro, how are you? What's going on?" Like, because I'm that big guy. I want to be the BFG, the big friendly giant, if that's, you know, how it's going to be. But there's no need to be a cunt, you know. Because there's little guys there there's a guy there that's probably 5'2", and he submits me every time because he's there 3 times a day, 6 a.m., midday, and the 6 p.m. class, and he's there at least 4 days a week, and that's all he does. He wants to be like, he wants to be the champion. He'll submit, but I like it because I go, "How's this little fucker doing this? What position is he getting a bigger guy in, and how's he manipulating my points of balance and posts and stuff?" And I'll really sort of try to analyze his approach to it. So I want him to submit me, and he's like, "Yeah, I got the big guy." I'm like, "Keep thinking that, you little cunt," because this is a fucking game. This is a chess game. There's no fucking way that as soon as you go to put two hands on me, wherever they are, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And your plan will be out the fucking window. But for all intents and purposes, I'm a student here. I'm learning. I'm having fun. I don't even think of that. But when he's getting cocky and dance around, okay, all right, cool. Yeah. Have your fun. That's nice. Because as I said to you, man, that whole grey man mentality is when you let people talk and rant and everything, as I have been for ages now, sorry. But you know what they know, but they don't know what you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Key right there too, I think, is people like to talk. People like to talk about themselves. We all know this. And if you can sit there, but there's a crucial key that you mentioned at the first part of our conversation, is that let them talk, I think, but don't let them get too much on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got to stand up for yourself at the same point too, which is a brilliant point. Some people play that game, let me listen, and then they're letting somebody walk all over them at the same time.
You got to play the game. We have it as a drill. I teach it, and I got it to be for sake of transparency. I got it from a TV show called whose line is it anyway with Drew Carey? It's a question for a question. It's just a fucking game.
Yeah.
It teaches you improvisational skills. And so we do it in scenario-based training. I teach people how to protect their personal space, de-escalate with certain things that we put in place throughout that talk and whatever. But the simple, one of the versions of the drill is question with a question. So when you ask me, oh, fuck, I don't know, hey man, where are you from? Oh, I'm just from around here. How about yourself? I stay vague, but I put it back on you. And because, as you said, everyone wants to talk about themselves or let you know what they think they know. Because I've done this even recently as well. I'll feed someone a piece of information. I'm connected to them through another person, and I'll hear that story back from that guy, and I know how much this guy talks and what because people see it as a sort of status if they know sort of the secret or what's really going on behind the scenes with such and such. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone loves gossip. So no one has gossip on me because I don't, well, I put out a lot, I do share a lot about what I do, but only what I'm willing to. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't have private Facebook and Instagram accounts and that, because the only thing I put out there is what I don't give a fuck about. Do you know what I mean? I'm not putting out all my personal routines and all that sort of thing. And most of the posts are, even the photos or videos of the fire, for example, that was the night before or 3 days earlier. I didn't have a fire here, because if you live around the corner from me and you didn't see smoke that, you know what I mean? Yeah. You saw smoke that night, you go, that is him. But there wasn't smoke coming out from my backyard that night. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's even that.
Man, is when, and when you are putting, I think, when you're playing the social media game, and I do the same thing. I put everything out there. I don't fucking private anything, man. But I, at the same point, realized that OPSEC is a real thing, and you have to freaking take it seriously. Yeah.
There's no photos of my daughter on the internet. There'll be a point where she'll have her own social media. That's part of how the world is these days. We just need to be careful and sensible and that sort of thing. So you do have to mold. You have to adapt to things. But in this entire time that she's been alive, I haven't really put her out there. I see guys that really, really regret putting up photos of their missus and kids, and then they have a fight with someone who they're friends with on social media, and they go, oh fuck, this guy's reposted. I had a guy tell me, oh, he's reposted a photo of my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter. I said, why the fuck did you put it up then?
Yeah.
Where do you think you got it from? You know, and I just said, whatever situation you got yourself in, or position you got yourself in, what have you done to avoid and prevent getting yourself in that position of disadvantage? You have to be accountable. You have to be responsible for your own fucking actions. And if that means when someone's got a photo of your significant other or whatever, you've put it out there. Mm-hmm. So be accountable for your own fucking actions and think, how do we mitigate this issue right now, but then also avoid and prevent that from becoming an issue again down the track. Learn from the behavior, correct it, and don't find yourself making the same mistakes. That's what being a fucking adult is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But these guys teaching and preaching self-defense or self-protection, who are still posting photos or screenshots of their Zoom session that they're doing with the kids' faces, their names, the inside of their house. You can see that they have one dog or two. I see that they've got a Chihuahua and they've got the number plates of their cars because they're doing it in the garage. I think, how fucking simple, as in, I can't say the R word, mouth-breathing moron type of person can you be that you're going to go and put people's information, in terms of you've got their personal information, their name, you've got the number plate of their car, you've got the kid's face. I can see what the layout of the house is and what sort of deterrent or level of security that dog would provide, for example, because that's a big fucking thing. That's an alarm system itself, as you know. So, you know, these guys, as I said, they're teaching self-defense, they're preaching self-defense and all this sort of thing, and then they go and put these photos up. I think, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I can't take someone seriously that is not practicing what they're preaching for whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, and as I said to you now about that social media thing, that's not something I might go and tell everyone about it, but it's something I fucking do, because it's not about the preaching, it's about the practice of it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's got to be a habit. There's 3 things that you can have. You got to have awareness, skills, and habits. It's about the habit. It's being in the habit or the routine of not posting your fucking life on social media, tagging this person, that person, checking into here and there. It's in the habit of doing it when you're not at that location, for example. It's having the skill set to understand or be tech savvy, because that's the world that we live in and it requires that. And it's having the awareness that well, maybe everyone you meet or come across on the street doesn't need to know your whole fucking life story. Like those people that, what do you call, put the stickers on their car of single mum with 2 kids and a little dog. And you think, you know what I mean? You're a sitting fucking target.
Yeah.
You know, Johnny likes fucking soccer, and okay, cool. So now I know, you know, it's just like, fuck, man, grow up. You know, just unfortunately, most people are reactive. So it's after they've become a victim to some sort of crime that they go, oh, can you help me out? I went, yeah. But you're really going to have to, how far you can only do so much, you know what I mean? You need people to adapt their lifestyle.
And we see that right now happening with, I mean to cut you off, we see that right now happening with the civil unrest in the States here, and it will spread elsewhere, but people are now saying, maybe I need to buy a shotgun for the house, or like, maybe I need to like take a Krav class when they're back in session. Like, you've been doing that a long time ago, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there was an old guy that came out with that bow and arrow. Did you see that on the street? Someone sent it to me yesterday, and they're like, "Fuck, man, check this out!" And this old guy's jumped out of his car with a bow. I might send it to you afterwards if you want. And he's fucking done this one, and no joke, probably 20 people jumped on and started pounding him. That's just like, you know, that false sense of security. I feel is more dangerous than any sort of, you know what I mean? Like I talked about this ages ago with women carrying pepper spray. I've said to so many of them, show me that. And it's still in its plastic wrapper at the bottom of their bag amongst all their shit in their glove box. And you're like, fuck, man. Because we had one, this came from that story of, we had this woman who was at one of my seminars, and she's, I said, oh, she seemed interested. And I said, did you want to join in? Did you want to, I don't mind if you step in and, you know, work with so-and-so. And she goes, no, I don't need this. I've got a little secret little weapon or something. What is it? She goes, oh, this pepper spray. I said, all right, can you pull it out and show me? She's like, yeah. And she starts looking for it. I go, 1, 2. I didn't hit her. I like standing there pretending like, you know, see what I'm doing while you're trying to go for that. Well, I'd usually have it ready. Where do you usually carry it? She goes, oh, it's been in my bag. It turned out it wasn't in her bag. It was in a glove box in another bag. Yeah. And she got it out, and it was still in the wrapper. And that's not the first time that's happened. But I'll try and make a point of, hey, you're setting yourself up for failure here. Fucking wake up, you know? Yeah.
It's been an honor, man. I got to cut it because it's getting near 1 o'clock in the morning my time. But
shit. Sorry, I didn't know it was that late. I've actually got to go grab my daughter too.
But yeah, dude, appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for having me. It's sorry I rant so much. I don't know. I'm just getting in the zone.
Hey, listen, man, I get in the zone. I love talking martial arts, you know, and honestly, for me to sit down with you, it's been a fucking treat, dude.
Oh, likewise, man. Thank you. It's good to meet you and to chat, and yeah, anytime we should do it again sometime, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Anytime. I'd be honored. All right, man.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much. Hey, guys, until next time, please remember, until next time, guys, that you are your first and last line of defense. Don't forget to go ahead and check out rawcombat.com. This has been Will Sherlin with Gutter Fighting Secrets and Luke Holloway with Raw Combat International.